On the shores of Tampa Bay, one of the most beautiful cities in the state of Florida, it is St. Petersburg, renowned for its waterside laid-back lifestyle. Well, today and once a year, it snaps into overdrive because a 100-lap race today for these 24 drivers is going to be the most brutal examination. But guess what? They're up for it. They're ready.
Indycar is by far the toughest category in the world.
Oh! You got started. Big accident right there.
The Indycar level is super high, and getting into the top of the field is a great challenge.
Oh, beautiful. There we go, boys. That was some great, man.
Talent-wise, it's stacked.
I'm as good as I've ever been, as fast as I've ever been, and execute better.
Yes, gotta be raced back.
When we do get a lucky bounce, we can maximize it. When we do have the best car, we can win the race.
If I'm in the right place at the right time, they have no chance.
Alex Palou wins his maiden IndyCar race.
I would never thought that that would be possible this early of my racing career. It's the beginning of me running up front.
The learning curve is very steep, but I'm so excited and so thankful to have this opportunity.
The 2021 NTT IndyCar Series is off to such a thrilling start, an unexpected start, and I think we're going to continue that theme here today as we say welcome to IndyCar Live, presented by Liberty Mutual Insurance. Great to have you with us here on NBC. Hi folks, Lee Diffie along with Townsend Bell, and the first ever winner here on the streets of St. Petersburg in an IndyCar, that's Paul Tracy. How did it happen, PT? How did you tackle this monster that is this concrete jungle, if you will?
The key to this racetrack being the first street course race of the year is staying out of trouble. 1, 2, 3, 4. Classic place for guys to make mistakes. Last year, Rossi hit the wall, leading the race by a mile, so you just got to keep it between the walls here.
IndyCar is beloved, Townsend, around the world for its variety, whether it's, big ovals, short ovals, the road courses, the street courses. Where does this one stack up in the terms of complexity?
I think this place is super unique because it's not just a street circuit. It's a runway, a massively long front straightaway, airport runway, and then it carves straight in and funnels straight into the city streets of St. Petersburg. 362 days a year, it's city streets. It's got manhole covers, various surfaces, bumps, all kinds of issues. So it's the greatest funnel in all of racing, and on the start for this race, that can create high drama.
We cannot wait for it. Do you know what? A week ago at Barber Motorsports Park in Birmingham, Alabama, we didn't quite get the opening lap that we thought we were going to begin a new season. The drivers tell us what happened.
I just got loose in the wake. I thought I had the car and then touched the grass, and I think once I touched the grass, that pitched me sideways. So feel really bad for anyone that got involved in that. Obviously, my mess created a bigger mess.
I came up to the top of the hill. I saw somebody drop the wheel, but all of a sudden, as I was coming out to pop on Pagano, Newgarden came across the track.
I was waiting for Newgarden to spin somewhere, and he's spinning the same place. I had Connor on my right, so I couldn't go right, and man, that sucks. It's such a disappointing start. I'm ready to get out of here and get going for St. Pete.
Well, Colton Herta answered the disappointment from last week at Barber by putting his car on the pole for today's race. But let's talk about what happened at Barber. Does that add extra pressure to today's race, Colton?
I think we just hit the reset button after that and pretty much thought that weekend never happened. So we moved into St. Pete thinking it was the first race of the year and full reset. All the guys were super motivated to get here, and we kind of showed that in qualifying.
You and I had an interesting conversation in the offseason. This is looking like today it's going to be a two-stop race, conserving tires and fuel. Right. And you told me that was the part of your game you needed to work on the most. Why?
That's definitely what I lacked. It's what I lacked my rookie year, and I made a big step into my sophomore season, but still was lacking a little bit to the top guys that we're used to running with. So we did make a few gains, especially in the off-season, working on that at Sebring and stuff, and then furthermore here in the warm-up was learning how to make fuel the fastest way. Seems like we found a good strategy for that, and just super excited to get the race going now.
Colton Herta will lead him to the green, Lee, but he's one of the many drivers from Barber who has a lot of points to make up after race one.
That's right, Marty. He used the word reset, and you can add to that rebound. Have a look on the left-hand side of your screen. There's some drivers, well-known drivers, in unfamiliar positions. They're going to need to dig themselves out of somewhat of a hole in this second race. Let's start with a two-time champion, Townsend. That's Joseph Newgarden. He's got to get a good result today.
Yeah, and let's not forget he's a two-time winner here at St. Pete. In fact, he's won the last 2 races. But that opening lap at Barber, nothing short of a disaster. It's like the start of an NFL season and you're fumbling the opening kickoff. It was pretty bad, but he knows it. He's hit the reset button big time. He's come here to St. Pete, fastest in the first 2 practice sessions. He's qualified 3rd, and I think Team Penske, Paul, has the car to beat on race pace, so it's all there for the taking with Newgarden today.
Alexander Rossi's own words were, "Nothing but a championship will be accepted." He's gotten off to a mediocre start, a 9th in Barber. He's starting in the middle of the pack here, and he's in a bad spot for turn 1 and turn 4 to be in the trouble zone to get into an accident with somebody other than his doing. So he's got to get out of here with a good result if he's going to put himself in position to challenge for this championship.
Well, let's add to that list Ryan Hunter-Reay, Captain America, who of course was caught out, one of the many caught out by that opening lap crash at Barber Motorsports Park. Here is Ryan. Take a look at this. We want to show you the video and take a really close look at Joseph Newgarden's right front wheel. Ryan didn't know that it happened in the moment until afterwards, reviewing some video with race control, and then he shared this with us on social media. If you just go right to the very bottom, is the most important part. This likely saved my life. The aero screen, that was the greatest real-time example test that the aero screen has had now in its 2nd season. So a really lucky escape there for Ryan Hunter-Reay. Time to say hello to another one of our team members. Rutledge Wood is here. Hey, Rut.
Hey, Lee. When we get back, I'm going to show you an amazing place to watch the race from. The best seat in the house is in those cars, but there's a lot of cool places here in St. Petersburg to catch this race.
Get ready for a new species of roller coaster. It's the new Jurassic World Velocicoaster, the apex predator of coasters, opening June 10th only at Universal Orlando Resort. Well, it is a sunny day, it is humid, and it's quite breezy no matter where you are in this limited 20,000 person fan attendance. We're now looking for our own Rutledge Wood. Where have we found you, mate?
Lee, I'm here in between turns 10 and 11 atop one of these beautiful yachts. Tom and Katie invited me up. His brother Phil and his wife Annette are over here too. They're all from Florida, but what an amazing thing. This has a very kind of Monaco feel to it. This whole row here, this is all set up temporarily so people can get an entirely different view at this racetrack. You're looking just under 10 grand for the weekend, whereas, you know, a comparable slip on the other side would be maybe $600. So it's definitely a first-class experience. You get to see all the cars and every racing action that's happening here. We just saw the Stadium Super Trucks a few minutes ago jumping by right in front. They even have a big screen out here for all the fans right there next to the Salvador Dali Museum. Just an incredible place to feel up close to the action, but first class here, Diff.
And you may have heard the crowd in the background with us here on the pit road as they're wheeling out the cars and the drivers are coming out, so it's nice to hear the fans. Do you know the IndyCar drivers are always trying to connect with fans of all ages and from all over the place. It's time for some elementary speed with Rutledge Wood and Pato O'Ward.
Hi, I'm Pete. I'm 4 and I like dinosaurs. Is your car faster than a velociraptor?
Is my car faster than the Velociraptor?
Yeah.
I don't know. How fast does the Velociraptor go?
You know, I saw Jurassic Park, and it seemed like a Velociraptor goes faster than I could run as a human. So I feel like I'd be the first.
You're pretty slow, though.
The two of us, I'd definitely get eaten first, which is all you would need to worry about.
Yeah.
If it was chasing it, you just need to be faster than me.
I think my race car's faster.
I do, too.
Yeah.
Hello, my name is Caitlin. I am 5 years old. My favorite character to drive with on Mario Kart is King Boo. What's yours?
I like the Donkey Kong.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He had a good vibe.
Yeah, Donkey Kong.
Are you into any of these video games? A lot of you?
Man, when I was a kid, I was super into Super Smash Bros.
Yes.
On GameCube, I was always a Falcon Punch.
Did you choose racing because you weren't good at other sports?
Yes. Man, I'm trashing everything. I'm so bad at soccer. I can run with the soccer ball. I can't shoot.
Right. Which is an important
you
component.
know the kid in school that whenever you're in PE, and there's like, okay, there's gonna be 2 teams playing soccer. I'm the last one to get picked. I was actually pretty good at football. I played football when I was a kid.
Really?
Yeah, but then at the second game, I got tired of getting hit. And these guys were like 3 times my size and 3 times my weight. Man, it was so painful. I just said, you know what, this is not for me.
So cool for some young fans to connect with the star drivers. And Pato O'Ward is not much past a kid himself. He's part of the youth movement in the NTT IndyCar Series. And we'll watch for some spectacular things from him today. Entering his very first Firestone Grand Prix of St. Pete, Jimmy Johnson. And the championship leader, his teammate, Alex Palou. We'll hear from him when we come back. You're watching IndyCar Live, presented by Liberty Mutual Insurance. Only pay for what you need.
The first is always a standout just because it solidifies your moment in the series.
The champion for 2003 is Scott Dixon.
A lot of the times we've had a really good mid-season run and dominated at the end and been able to steal it away.
Scott Dixon is a 6-time IndyCar champion.
The newest is always very nice, especially reaching a milestone of 6 championships.
One of the big stories is Scott Dixon in his pursuit of a 7th title to draw level with AJ Foyt. Well, last week, Chip Ganassi, Mike Hull, the entire group presented Scott with his 6-time champion Jostens ring. A really proud moment for Scott and his family, for sure. There are 4 Chip Ganassi racing cars in this race today, and Scott is the highest starter. No great surprise there. The championship leader, last week's winner, Alex Palou there, Marcus Ericsson, and then Jimmy Johnson a little further back. Time to talk more about Palou. In fact, let's hear from the Spaniard with Dave Burns.
And Lee, did you like the way he put it for the opening of the show? That win at Barber was the beginning of me running up front. What is the feeling like coming into the racetrack as the reigning winner on the series, and what can you do with St. Pete starting 10th?
Yeah, man, it was amazing to be winning the first round at Barber. It was amazing. First time with Chip Ganassi. They gave me the best car we wanted. It's crazy coming here with all the fans. It's amazing. We're starting P10, which is not super good, but I think we have a lot of chances here to make it to the win. I think we had a really strong car on the warm-up, so we'll try to bring the number 10 NTT data to the front.
Lee, I think one of the things that they showed everyone last week was they can take the situation and maximize it. He outlasted everybody, and they had great strategy winning.
Dave, Alex Palou comes here from a pretty impressive international career in open wheel racing. He has enormous respect for the NTT IndyCar Series. That's why we saw that win mean so much to him. I think he's going to be a contender today again. Kind of the quiet achiever in the group. Expect good things today also from Marcus Ericsson. So 2 of the younger drivers within the Chip Ganassi squad who have enormous futures. And of course, Ericsson comes here from years in Formula One. This is Marcus's 3rd year. How about the champ, though? What do you make? You know him so well. You've known him for so many years. What do you think about Dixon here? It's a place that he's never won.
It's a place he's never won, but the reason Dixon's a 6-time champion, it seems like we talk about this every year. He's fast, he's smart, and he's the most experienced driver in the field. But beyond that, what he does really, really well is this freakish ability to stay out of trouble and finish races. He keeps the big picture in mind all season. That's why he's a 6-time champion, and that's why it's so important for Scott Dixon to use that freakish ability on these opening laps and stay out of trouble.
You've been asked so many times, Paul, what do you think about your mate Jimmy Johnson? And this is beginning his 2nd IndyCar race weekend.
Well, he had a lot of practice and time at Barber Motorsports Park. I expected him to come here and really struggle because this is a street track. You don't get any time on here. But he decreased the delta. At Barber, he was 2.5 seconds off. This weekend, with no practice, he was 1.5 seconds off. So that gap is getting smaller. He's improving every week. He's got a big mountain to climb, and it's going to take some time.
He keeps talking about the fun factor, and make no mistake about it, the 7-time NASCAR champ is having a blast. You're watching IndyCar Live, presented by Liberty Mutual Insurance.
Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, we ask that you please rise and remove your hats as the CENTCOM Joint Service Color Guard from MacDill Air Force Base presents our nation's colors. Today marks the last presentation of colors for Intelligence Specialist First Class Andy Almont before he leaves for the Drill Instructor Academy. Please remain standing as Chaplain Jason Holt of Indycar Ministry offers today's invocation.
Let's pray. Father God, we thank you so much for the opportunity to gather once again and enjoy some racing. In this moment, we just lift up our drivers, teams, safety personnel, and spectators for your hand of protection to rest over us that we might have a great and a safe day of racing. We also just pray for our brave men and women serving overseas and within our borders, keeping us safe to be able to gather like this. But most of all, we say thank you for the hope and love available to all at the cross of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Here today to honor America with the singing of our national anthem, please welcome the Vox Nova Chamber Choir from Pinellas County Center for the Arts at Jonathan C. Gibbs High School.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Let's hear it for the Vox Chamber Choir from Pinellas County Center for the Arts.
Boy, what a venue on a hot, muggy day in St. Pete. When we come back, it's time to crank the engines for the second race of the year. Back-to-back wins here at St. Pete.
Proud of you guys. You were on it all year. Great job.
It's definitely bittersweet. I don't really know what I'd do different this year. It's big time to win 6 championships.
Scott Dixon is a 6-time IndyCar champion.
6 is good, 7 sounds better. Joseph drove a hell of a race there and put us under a lot of pressure.
It's so great to be back in St. Pete. It took us to the defining point of the season last year as we now welcome you to round 2 of the 2021 NTT IndyCar Series. This is the Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg. 100 laps, 180 miles. It's going to be a tough day. Alex Palou drove beyond his years last week at Barber Motorsports Park to get his very first victory. What can he do? In the highly unfamiliar position of starting 20th on the grid, Will Power knows he has some work to do, and so too does Alexander Rossi, who was leading and running away with this race late last year before an unforced error took him out of this one. He wants to rectify that wrong right here today. His younger teammate, the man who finished 3rd in the championship last year, Colton Herta, starts on the pole position for the 5th time in his career. We have got so many stories to get to today. Let's kick things off. Let's get to Marty Snyder. Marty?
Hey, Lee, which driver is arguably the most excited for the green flag today? Well, I would nominate Joseph Newgarden. After last week's in race number 1 of the season, lap 1 crash at Barber Motorsports Park, in which he said was, quote, a gut punch. But if there's one racetrack where he can recover, it's probably the streets of St. Pete. Newgarden's won the last 2 races here, and in the paddock this morning, everyone thought the 2 car might be the one to beat again today, Dave.
Marty, just a reminder of the different backgrounds that the rookies are from this year. One is from V8 Supercars in Australia. One comes from NASCAR stock cars, the other from Formula One around the world. So last week, what do I give them? I'd say an A-. McLaughlin had a fast car, but the pit strategy may have bit him just a little bit. Jimmy Johnson finished most all the laps on the weekend and learned a ton. Romain Grosjean, the best of them, finishing 10th at Barber and showing what he's potentially able to do this year. Now this weekend, what about the streets of St. Pete? Well, this man, Scott McLaughlin, has been around the streets a lot, as has Romain Grosjean, but McLaughlin out-qualified the other 2. He will start 14th, Lee.
And looking good. He felt he should have gone one phase further in qualifying, but narrowly missed out on that. So let's take a quick look in the rearview mirror to Barber Motorsports Park last week and how the rookies did. Romain Grosjean in that Dale Coyne Racing with Rick Ware Racing car finished as the highest. T-Bell, how did you rate the rookies last week?
Well, an impressive debut for Grosjean, no doubt. Qualified 7th, ran in the lead group all day. He learned a ton. I think he had a blast behind the wheel. But I think you come to St. Pete, it's a different kind of racetrack here. It's bumpy, much more demanding on the brakes. And I think the advantage today probably goes to McLaughlin. Team Penske seems to have a handle on the balance. McLaughlin seems to have a handle on what it's going to take to run at the front at IndyCar now. So we'll have to see how it plays out.
I thought Jimmy Johnson did as well as anybody could have expected, but today is a different ball game. He had a spin early in the race and got a lap behind. Today, he needs to fight to stay on the lead lap. The leaders are going to come around to him, and he needs to put up a fight and not just get out of the way and be Mr. Nice Guy to everybody.
So, we spoke about Will Power starting 20th on the grid today. This is the reason why. Have a look at this if you weren't with us on Peacock in qualifying yesterday. Will tagged the wall late in his session, and it ended like this in spectacular style.
You might note just a little bit of damage to the right rear tire. The suspension was actually damaged there too, and you can see Will Power explaining to his crew, I just tried to send it through the last section to hang on. It obviously didn't work out for the 12 car.
And why is it such a big deal? Because this guy is one of the best qualifiers in the history of IndyCar. He is just half a dozen pole positions away from eclipsing Mario Andretti. And Will Power, up until yesterday's qualifying, had 9 poles out of the last 11 qualifying sessions here. This place has been a playground for him. Not the case yesterday. How about Colton Herta in the Gainbridge Honda for Andretti Autosport? He knew he needed to rebound this weekend, and boys, he did.
Yeah, he certainly did. He came back with a vengeance this weekend, put it on pole, almost a new lap record, but he has really figured out how to manage the races now and how to manage his tires. So I picked him as my bet win. I might make some money today, boys.
That was a very slick performance in qualifying. He's pretty quiet out of the car, but does some amazing things behind the wheel. So we spoke about Alexander Rossi. Townsend, what unraveled his day yesterday? Because he was leading almost every stage of qualifying and practice. This car was up there constantly yesterday.
Yeah, he looks strong, but I think it's the second race in a row here where it's frustration for the 27. You see Michael Andretti, the team owner, Rob Edwards, team president and manager on Rossi's car. He runs the strategy. They're feeling the pressure. A lot of debate over what's going on with the 27, and for Colton Herta to be up there on pole and Rossi to be way down in 11th, he's going to be angry. When he gets mad, he gets fast. Big things can happen, but we've also seen drama in the past when he gets frustrated. So we'll have to see what happens here at the start.
He's ready for things to ignite. His 2021 season is Alexander Rossi in that AutoNation Honda. And AutoNation celebrating its 25th anniversary, so we'd love nothing better than to give them a victory here today. But there is some work to do because he starts in 11th place on the grid, and when you're back there in traffic a little bit, you've got to work super hard here. There are overtaking points, but this place is really tricky, as we've seen over the past 17 years plus. So on this hot and humid day, there is a light breeze, but I can tell you that Townsend, Paul, myself were just out on the pre-grid, as you saw, and when that breeze stops, boys, the humidity and temperature goes way up. What's that going to be like in the cockpit?
Well, it's going to be tough today. This is the first test of the season with the hot temperatures. It's much hotter than it was last week. Dehydration, Townsend, is going to be a factor today.
About 30 degrees cooler, it felt, at least to me, on the skin with the cloud cover versus when that cleared and the sun came out. And the sun is out now. This track is getting hot.
Again, 100 laps around the St. Pete Street circuit. It's time to go trackside for the command. Here we go.
Race fans, it's time for those most famous words in all of sports. Here to give the command, please welcome today's Grand Marshal, wide receiver for the Green Bay Packers, Marquez Valdez-Scantling.
Are y'all ready? Everybody ready? Racers, start your engines. Go, go, go!
So as those engines fire, we aren't far from seeing the cars roll. Let's take a look at today's starting grid. Brought to you by Firestone. I mentioned a little earlier, car 26 there, Colton Herter. It's the 5th time in his young career that he starts on the pole. But how about Meyer Shank Racing's Jack Harvey? That was an awesome performance yesterday. That bright pink AutoNation Sirius XM car on the outside there, the Honda-powered machine. He's on the front row and could do some great things today.
Doing a great job punching above their weight. They've done it many times, and they're part of the lead pack. Bourdais there also doing a great job for AJ Foyt Racing. He's won here in St. Pete, his hometown, twice before, so some really impressive qualifying runs. But Paul, further back with Dixon and Rahal, they've got some ground to make up.
Absolutely, but here's where the action is going to be. Rossi, Hunter Ray, Sato, Grosjean, these guys are going to be fighting power all the way in the back. This is where all the meat of the racing is going to be, and these guys are going to be frantic to get to the front.
Looking back to the last row, there's the 48 of Jimmy Johnson. Slowly but steadily finding pace in the IndyCar Series. He continues to close lap time to the front runners, but at about 60 seconds a lap, he's got to get after it early to make sure he stays on that lead lap today.
So you may have noticed there was some frantic work going on the front end of Sebastian Bourdais' car, the Rocket Chevrolet for AJ Foyt Racing. This is something these guys did not need because they were pumped after Sebastian's wonderful qualifying effort yesterday. AJ Foyt, the legend, is here, and boy, has this Frenchman who calls St. Pete home put a spring in Super Texas step since joining the team. Really promising things. Let's hope whatever the issue is there, they can get resolved. It's time to have a little chat here, isn't it, Townsend? Why don't you dial up a 2-time and defending winner in Joseph Newgarden.
Hey, Joseph, it's Townsend up in the NBC booth. You got me?
Yeah, copy that. Got you.
Hey, bud, great pace all weekend. There's 2 Hondas between you and a 3-time win streak here in St. Pete. What's the biggest challenge you think today to get there?
Well, I think for me, the obvious one is getting to turn 1 and getting our season kicked off. You know, I was disappointed we weren't able to get going last week. Felt pretty bad about that. So want to get my day started. It's another beautiful day like last weekend to go race, and I feel like the Hitachi car is quick. Chevy's done a good job for us. You know, we're going to have good fuel mileage, good pace all day long, and just execute. Typical deal, though. You know, St. Pete can be chaotic, so we get through turn 1, I think we'll be okay.
Copy that. With 65 degrees here in the booth, tell us what it feels like in the cockpit. I notice you don't run that air duct on top of the aero screen. How's it feel in there?
Man, it's hot. It's just the humidity, I think, that's getting to us. The ambient temp's not so bad. It's just the humidity that really takes a toll. I was worn out after warning us this morning, so don't really have a choice. You know, we got to get in, go fast, and not complain about it. So I'm ready to rock, but it's going to be really difficult.
All right, we know you're one of the toughest ones out there. Have a great day. We'll be watching.
Look, within the driver group, Joseph Newgarden, not only because he's a 2-time champion, but because of his physical acumen and his training ethics, he is held in very high regard. So when someone like Newgarden tells you it's going to be a long, hot afternoon, you better listen. All right, it's time now to take a closer look at the streets of St. Petersburg in our track preview brought to you by Honda. Let's go for a ride, guys.
Yeah, riding on board with Alexander Rossi. Thanks to AutoNation there. He's over on the back side of the track right now, that kink on the back straightaway, as you see from the helicopter shot. But let's take an aerial view of the streets of St. Pete. I call it the biggest funnel in racing because that big, long, wide airport runway just pushes everybody down into single file through turns 1, 2, and 3. We've seen a lot of car-to-car contact there in the past. Rossi's over on the backside now, the final corner, turn 14. That leads onto that runway, long front straightaway, and you can see on board just how wide it is. It also creates a terrific passing opportunity. You might see 6, 7 cars wide here on the start, but they've got to sort themselves out by the time they get to turn 2. And then, Paul, kind of a short straightaway to 4. You could pass here, too.
Yeah, but the road is pretty wide there, and then again, it funnels down in turn 4. And if a guy makes a mistake in that fast chicane and you get a run on him, it's so easy to go down the inside and the slippery part of the track and really get bottled in.
Turn 10 offers another brake zone. Harder to pass there, though. The minimum speed through turn 10 is a little quicker, so you're not on the brakes for as long as a few of the other sections we just covered. So that's a lap at St. Pete, thanks to Honda. And the 14 car back in line, Dave.
T-Bell, you see him taking his spot back in there. He's still allowed to do that in the time that they had. They had to switch the radio out, Larry Foyt, the strategist, told me. And for this St. Petersburg resident, man, pressure at the beginning he did not want to have to think about, but they've been radio checking around the course, and they believe that everything has been fixed on the 14. Should be an okay day with a weird start for Seb.
He's getting up into his start position of 5th behind Colton Herter, Jack Harvey, and the two Penske's in Joseph Newgarden and Simon Pagenaud in that bright gold wrap. There it is right there. It's a spectacular looking livery. And I'm pretty sure we're going to see lots of Simon today. He is ready for his best result of this new season. So they're starting to pack up, coming towards the end of the lap. This is where you'll see them flick through this change in direction and then up to the hairpin turn 14. And they're going to come to green. How will Colton Herter control this start? We're ready to go. It's two of the younger drivers in IndyCar on the front row. And it's time to go racing in St. Petersburg, Florida. Green is the call. Who gets the jump? Look at Newgarden on the inside. He's getting forceful. Bourdais goes the outside. Harvey swings wide in that pink car. And this is a hot spot. Can we tiptoe through here and get through cleanly?
Bourdais got into the back of Newgarden there at the turn 1 apex. They still continue on track. I don't know if there's any damage, but Rinus VeeKay has all kinds of pressure from behind.
Simon Pagenaud had a little bit of contact with his Frenchman, Sebastian Bourdais, but clean first lap so far. I like the way they're racing right now.
Graham Rahal to the outside of Alexander Rossi in the pink AutoNation car.
And Rahal is fired up for a big weekend. He was pleased with the effort at Barber a week ago, but wants more points right here, right now at St. Pete. Man scramble at the front. Herter and Harvey, exactly how they started. Newgarden, Pagenaud, Bourdais, and then Rinus VeeKay.
Guy who got shuffled back is Pato O'Ward. He went from 6th down to about 7th or 8th, so he lost out on the start. Will Power making positions already.
Sneaking by Ed Jones there.
Well, we got a run right here. Reds versus blacks. We'll see if Simon can hold off right here, but he's got a little bit of gap there. Must have used a little bit of push to pass.
Pagenaud's car got hit in the right rear. The team looked at it as he went around course, and they radioed back to him that it looks okay. Simon radioed the same, feels okay.
When you hear Paul say reds versus blacks in IndyCar, you have to race on 2 different compounds of tyre in the race, and you have to use both compounds at least once. And the red wall tyres are the softer compound tyres. Pagenaud is on the primary tyre, the harder compound blacks. And there's been a lot of conjecture as to what combination and when you run them is going to work out the best over these 100 laps here today.
And there you see the split, 13 on the harder primaries, 11 on the alternates. So the teams agree with us. They don't know which one's better either. So we'll have to see how that plays out. The multi-car teams with teammates to give feedback have an advantage in terms of figuring out during this first run what might be the way to go. Let's take another look at that start, because for a second there it looked like we'd have another major incident at St. Pete in turn 1. Newgarden in that white and black car looking to the inside, starts to back out, and look at Sebastian Bourdais in the all-black rocket car, gets into the back of Newgarden.
The guy who made the moves was Alexander Rossi. He went from 11th, 12th up to right now 8th. O'Ward slipped from 6th back to 9th. So nice moves right there by the 27 AutoNation car.
Wasn't just this black and white rocket Chevrolet getting into the back of Newgarden. Sebastian Bourdais hit fellow Frenchman Simon Pagenaud as well, as he now is trying to wrestle off the spectacular youngster in Rinus VeeKay.
Rinus is very aggressive, Townsend. He loves to race hard, has no qualms about doing a little wheel banging either.
That's what you get when you're 20 years old. He's got Graham Rahal in the United Rentals Honda all over the back of him, exiting turn 10, Dave.
The radio check this morning from VeeKay to his crew. I feel good about today, the crew. I like that you feel good about today. As for the 14 of Bourdais on that opening shunt, no radio communication regarding damage. Sebastian moves on.
Looking at the right front, left front wing on Sebastian Bourdais there, the 14. You see some damage on the nose. It looks like, I don't know if that's a decal peeled back, but there is something askew on the front of the nose there. But so far, Bourdais' pace seems all right, although he's under huge pressure from behind. There we see a closer look. I think that's a camera. That's one of our cameras.
Yeah, really hard to tell because the car's flat black, so it's really hard to see if anything's going on there. But there is something trailing off of the front wing there.
And something is building here. You just get that feeling. VK Rahal is racing. Rahal and Rossi have been the biggest movers in the early phase of this race. Alexander Rossi up 3 positions. This man here, Graham Rahal, up 2.
Great shots there from United Rentals. Again, Rahal on the harder black tire. We're 4 laps into this, and I would expect in about 5 laps, guys,
if you have a run, use push to pass.
It's about where we start to see the cross-off as Scott Dixon makes a move on O'Ward up the inside of turn 1.
That's for 9th, car 9, position 9.
Now, O'Ward is really struggling. Starting on the black, harder tires. He qualified on those. Took a little gamble, Townsend. Decided that he didn't want to use the red, so for whatever reason, right now he's sliding backwards.
Yeah, Dixon on the softer red tires, Hunter Ray. So this is the part of the stint, a stint being the life of the tire, the first 30 laps or so, where the red tire is going to have an advantage. In about 5 laps, like I said, that's when I would expect the cars on black tires to start pressuring the red tire cars as the red tires start to wear out. They're softer, so they wear faster.
Have another look at Sebastian Bourdais in the Rocket Chevrolet. Look to the right there. In comes that front nose assembly, right into the back of both Team Penske cars, Newgarden and Pagenaud.
So it's broken the very nose cone of the car. You can see right on the nose tip. So that's got a gaping hole in the front of it now, and that's going to let a lot of air go in through the cockpit, Townsend, but it's also going to create a lot of drag on the straightaway.
So let's just remember that in the last 2 races Sebastian Bourdais has done, one was the Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring, where he nursed the car home with a severely damaged rear wing and won the 12 hour. And then last week at Barber, he had a really solid finish with part of the side and part of the floor broken on the car. So can this veteran Frenchman, the 4-time champ, drive a wounded car? The answer is yes.
That's a camera that's dangling around in the front. All these cars are equipped with a camera on the nose. So that is dangling around on the cable that it's attached to.
Let's check in with Marty Snyder.
Hey, Lee, we're going to hear a lot about overtake today, so we thought we'd kind of take you inside the cockpit of one of these race cars and show you the backup steering wheel for Colton Herta, who's in the lead right now. So this is what the driver sees in front of him during a race. This is lit up normally. These are the shift lights, almost like what you would have in your car with an RPM indicator. This is push to talk. This is to dim the screen for him. This is to switch pages on the screen. This is to reset the entire steering wheel. This is for reverse. This is for pit lane speed. This is the weight jacker only used at ovals, neutral, and to get a drink of water on a hot, humid day. That's what you're going to need. And you also hear them talk about maps for all day long, how they'll switch them. If they tell him pink 4, that goes to pink 4, and he switches that. So that's how they use fuel, how much fuel they use, and how much fuel they can save. Interesting what these drivers deal with. All of these things on the steering wheel, including the clutch and how to shift and downshift. So amazing stuff. All in this little wheel. That's what a driver has in front of him, Townsend.
The only thing the drivers don't have is how many seconds are left from their competitors with push to pass. But there you see it, 150 seconds total available. It gives you about 60 horsepower, and you have a max use of 15 seconds at a time, but you don't have to use it for all 15 seconds. As we see, top 3 cars, they have not touched the hot button yet.
It's a clever balance of attack or being conservative to save that push to pass time. Did you know you can celebrate the Kentucky Derby with a bottle of Woodford Reserve bourbon, the official bourbon of the Kentucky Derby? Cheers to 200 flavor notes and $5 off when you use the code WRDERBY on your first Drizzly order. As we welcome you back to the streets of St. Petersburg, Firestone Grand Prix of St. Pete, some GMR track facts for you of some key figures and who has done what as we ride aboard the United Rentals Honda for Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan, celebrating its 30th year of racing. And Graham Rahal here has been putting some severe pressure, Marty, on Rinus VeeKay from Ed Carpenter Racing.
And Lee, one of the big things everyone's going to be talking about today is pit strategy. For the leaders, it should be a 2-stop race, but there are some pitting early. like Connor Daly right here leaving pit road in his Ed Carpenter car. I asked Connor before the race, will you be at Texas next week? He said, yes, I do plan to be there. So Connor should be in every race this year, trying the 3-stop strategy, see if it pays off for that team.
They'll be hoping for a yellow here. See if they can cycle to the front.
Going to need a yellow to do something, because right now Colton Herta is just controlling the pace, has a nice gap, has set the fastest lap of the race at a 1:01.9. Pretty big gaps in the first 3 cars there, but then the rest of the field here as Graham Rahal looks inside of Rinus VeeKay. Rinus VeeKay defends nicely, but this group here from VeeKay back is pretty stacked together, Dave.
Guys, is this where after 11 laps we see the primary tire on Rahal's car meeting the Firestone Reds on VeeKay's car? Lap 11, perhaps that's what it is. Rahal told me yesterday they felt like they had the opportunity to move forward in qualifying, just had a problem in turn 9. That's a right-hander that leads onto the bay. That car looking very good right now. Firestone Blacks versus Reds, is this where they kind of fall off on the Reds, guys?
It is, Dave, but only if you're kind of struggling to keep a balance on your race car, because Colton Herta and Jack Harvey, no issues up front, and I think that's exactly the reason why Colton Herta won the pole position for today's race, qualifying in the 3rd round with the Firestone Fast 6 on used Reds like everybody else. But Colton Herta, Marty, just had the measure of the field on used tires, and he's showing it again here.
Yeah, right behind him, Alexander Rossi is in 8th position behind Graham Rahal, we should say. And if you'll go on board with Alexander Rossi, you can see they have added a vent to the top of that car. That vent, while it does cool the driver, is an added penalty. It adds 5 pounds of drag to the race car. So if you're at top speed, it actually slows the car down a little bit versus his teammates. But Paul, I would say on a hot and warm day like today and very humid, that cooling for the driver may be worth that little penalty.
Well, I think in my opinion, Townsend disagreed with me pre-race. We were talking about that vent, and I would prefer to have my driver fresh at the end of the race rather than dehydrated versus losing a mile an hour down the straightaway.
Well, how about that? I bet Rossi didn't factor in the piece of debris that is plugging up that air vent. But for me, Paul, I'd rather be miserable and as fast as possible down the straightaway. No easier way to go fast and to pass cars than to have the best straight line speed. I just don't know how much drag, and frankly, I don't think these teams really know how much drag. We said 5 pounds, but I talked to another team engineer who said, we've never had it in the wind tunnel. We have no idea what it does, but it pushes a lot of air in the cockpit, and that has to slow you down on the straightaway.
Arrow McLaren SP driver Pato O'Ward, who thrilled us last weekend in Barber and started today's race in 6th position. He is back in 10th. That's heading the wrong way. Let's have a listen to some recent radio.
Everybody's settled in here. Everybody's running the same lap time for the 10th. It's total fuel-save race at this point, so just settle in here. Look after your fuel. Conserve overtake. Doing a good job.
Paul, when you're running 10th and you expect to be first, Pato O'Ward thought he would win last weekend from pole position. Yeah, you can settle in, but he is 13, 14 seconds back of the leader. It's pretty hard to have the discipline to do that.
Yeah, these guys are all really, really good at making the fuel mileage. So, Marty, it's going to be interesting to see who makes the worst fuel mileage and hits the pit lane first, and who can stretch it the furthest.
Hey, Paul, you heard Pato O'Ward's team say it's a total fuel mileage save race. Well, up front, Colton Herta is the guy leading everybody. In fact, he's got 2.5+ seconds over Jack Harvey, who's in 2nd. And I had a conversation with Colton in the offseason about this topic, Townsend. He said, this is my #1 weakness, saving fuel, saving tires, yet making time in the race car. So as a young driver like Colton Herta is, how do you get that developed in your game of knowing that you need to develop that part of your game and be better to save fuel and make lap time at the same time?
Well, Colton Herta is 20 years old, and I got 2 teenagers at home, Marty. I can tell them as much as I want. You got to show them. You got to show them the data. It's irrefutable. So I think for a young driver, you've got to give them the information and just show them black and white. Here's what you're doing. Here's what the guys that are winning championships are doing, and that's the best way to feed the information. And obviously at Andretti, with Rossi, Hunter Ray's won a championship over there. They've got the information to help their young, fast driver understand the big picture.
Well, he's got a pretty good coach on the radio as well. His dad, Brian, was a real good IndyCar driver and a multiple-time winner, and he knew how to save fuel and go fast. So he's got the advantage of that, whereas an Alex Palou last week,
he was a master last week of saving fuel and tires, and nobody was telling him what to do. So you got to figure this stuff out.
Alex Palou, who started 10th, runs 14th, and this is Jimmy Johnson in the Carvana Honda for Chip Ganassi Racing.
Looks like it's at the hairpin at the last corner.
That is.
A lot of guys have been going off there.
Can you back it out?
I think he stalled it.
I was circling, Paul, the flat spot on the right front tire, so I think that tells the story. Big right front lockup.
It won't go.
Stuck in first gear. He's letting the
You're in
clutch out.
first. Go back. Now you're in reverse. And it's not going anywhere.
So they're watching the telemetry from pit lane. Got to get the car to neutral, then hold the reverse button, pull the clutch in, select the downshift paddle on the backside, and you can see the hands of Jimmy Johnson working furiously as the car's still running. He knows he's losing valuable time.
The problem you got, too, the longer it's sitting here running, it's going to overheat, because these cars are meant to flow air over the radiators, and at some point, it's going to overheat, and he's going to have to shut it off.
Sometimes what you have to do is start to slip the clutch paddle as everybody's trying to race into pit lane before it goes full course yellow and the pits are closed.
Yeah, this opens the window, Townsend. You see Will Power, Romain Grosjean pitting here. They're going to get these red Firestones off and the primary tires on. And Power, they call him immediately to pit road. The longer Johnson sits there, they have to throw a caution at some point. So everyone trying to take advantage of that and pit before the caution comes out.
Will Power, Romain Grosjean in that Nurtec Honda for Dale Coyne Racing with Rick Ware Racing. And Jimmy is still trying to juggle it, trying to engage that. This is what happened. Have a listen.
Just locked it up and couldn't make the turn. Lucky he didn't get hard into the wall. A couple lights cars got, you see the black mark on the wall, got into the wall, but Colton Herta just brushed the wall. Pretty light tap, but you don't want to be doing any more of that, bend a toe link. But still, they haven't gone yellow. There's really, Townsend, no access for the safety car to get over there without going out on the track. And then we got some Herta radio as well. Listen to this.
Good tracks ripping up in turn 9. All right, copy that. Let's keep that to ourselves.
And there's the caution, finally.
Full course yellow, pits are closed.
These guys that pitted like Will Power just got a big advantage of these guys that stayed out. That's going to cycle Colton Herta behind those guys that pitted.
We don't know how many of the leaders will actually opt to come to pit lane here. I think track position is going to be pretty important as the 48 of Jimmy Johnson still trying to figure out how to get going again. I believe Colton Herta said the track is coming up in turn 9.
Yeah. Ambient temperature is 84 degrees. Track temp 118. 70% humidity here in St. Petersburg.
Having a look here in turn 9, and I see some marbles, but I don't really see any evidence of the track coming up. I see some little bits here.
I thought he said the track is gripping up.
Yeah, but that's not normally something a driver would complain about. You'd celebrate that.
Maybe if he said gripping up, that's why his father Brian said, let's keep that to ourselves. We will see.
Maybe it is coming up a little bit there. Well, that's just a rubber buildup on that paint. So,
city streets.
So now we need to see what happens here as to who stays out. Pits are closed at the moment. When they open, who does what. So the cars that have pitted so far in this race, we saw Connor Daly on pit road. Scott McLaughlin in that Dex Imaging Chevrolet has. Felix Rosenquist has. We saw Will Power and Romain Grosjean. Ed Jones has. Dalton Kellett and Max Chilton are the cars that have pitted so far after running 18 laps of the Firestone Grand Prix. We'll be back in a moment. Back on a hot, humid day here in St. Pete, and this beautiful aerial coverage brought to you by our friends at Geico, just giving you a rather larger and more detailed picture of the whole precinct here. Such a great buzz around town, and I mentioned earlier that the spectator numbers are capped at 20,000 per day, but just the buzz around St. Pete to have Indycar back in town, and for the second time in short succession. Remember, this was the season finale. late last year. Jimmy Johnson is going again. The field is packed up again, and the field is ready to go. And restarts here down into turn 1 can be pretty spicy. Listen to the call.
Green, green, green. A lot of pickup on the tires as 24 cars go firing down into turn 1. You could see marbles on the track.
Oh, big lockup by board A. Nearly gets into the back of Simon again as VK was challenging him on the inside.
Rahal, Graham Rahal in that blue and white United Rentals Honda right there. He's sizing VK up.
Oh, Rahal goes for the outside. Big, strong overtaking move on the outside. Oh, Rossi stuffs it on the inside of Scott Dixon right there.
VK blocked Rahal up the inside, but braked really early for the corner. Rahal had all the grip on the line and just sailed right by.
VK's in trouble here. He's sliding around all over the place. Rossi now is all over the back of him.
That lockup was so significant, folks. Our announce booth on the right-hand side, on the outside, I should say, coming to turn 1. The smoke infiltrated our announce booth.
I just thought that was your chosen scent for today.
Not mine. So let's see what VK does here, because he's now coming under the pressure of
look at
not only
right
Dixon, but Alexander Rossi as well.
Nice run by Dixon off the corner. He's got Rossi's under pressure here.
Big dive on the inside. Takuma Sato on James Hinchcliffe. They hit. Wheel-to-wheel contact. And the Andretti Steinbrenner Autosport car.
Got a flat tire, flat front tire. So they hit wheel-to-wheel flush, Townsend. It could have knocked the valve stem off of that rim, and immediately it went flat.
Yeah, I was surprised Hinch tightened things up like that in turn 1. Sato was very much there. Wonder if Hinch knew that Sato was square up there. A lot of these cars, these drivers will have spotters down in turn 1, giving them that information, just like on an oval. Let's take a replay.
So Sato dives in, really no lockup, and then bang, wheel-to-wheel flush, and you see something come out of the wheel right there, probably knocked the valve stem off the rim, and then immediately the tire was flat. Watch something fly in the air here.
Might have knocked the wheel out of Sato's hands as well on the contact. You can see his hands come off the wheel. So pretty big impact. Here we go on board.
I saw the valve stem. See that silver valve stem?
Yeah.
Jump off the wheel right there.
Check this out, Romain Grosjean, World Power. This is turn 10. It's wheel-to-wheel there, and Grosjean into the wall.
Oh, and then Ed Jones gets both of them.
And prior to that, Grosjean in that bright purple car chasing Will Power. Wow, so 2 walk laps within a lap for Romain Grosjean.
He's playing a game of bumper bowl. That 51
Oh, he hit the wall again.
Nerdcheck car still hanging in there. That thing's tough, Paul.
Yeah, I'll say.
And guys, he clearly has a steering issue. He's radioed to the team a couple of times. I don't think I can hang on to it anymore. In fact, he's telling them right now, something is broken. I'm going to come to pit road.
Oh, this is an awesome scrap here. This group led by Alexander Rossi in that bright pink Auto Nation Honda. Then Dixon. Then Pato O'Ward has come alive. The yellow and red DHL Honda of Ryan Hunter-Ray is also in the mix. And then Sato. This is Bourdais defending from Rahal.
Rinus VK is really kind of...
This should be interesting. Hinchcliffe out of the pits with a fresh set of tires, but they're cold. They're not up to grip yet. And now you've got the front pack racing through.
Hinch was told that he would be coming out amongst a bunch of them, and there he is, trying to give them room as they go through this tight street course. They did find no damage on the car, got Hinch back out here, and he told me the reason he would not defend going down into the corner like that to stay in the line was because drivers like Sato, by diving down there, would pick up all the marbles. Didn't work out for him because they got the flat tire, but that's how he was defending, by not going down the line.
Rinus VK got a little wide there, and the kink nearly hit the wall.
Sato on the inside of Ryan Hunter-Ray. A couple of Indy 500 champs going at it.
Nice clean move from Sato. All these drivers know that pit stops are coming up soon. This is where the red tires are disadvantaged, and if you're on the harder black tire, you've got to make something happen right now as these red tire cars are really struggling for balance.
Rossi just passed VK in the fast chicane. VK now is in deep trouble with the tires. Dixon looking down the inside. Watch this replay with Rossi here. This pass was insane.
Oh! VK with the fade.
So while Graham Rahal in the United Rentals Honda is running well, very well in 6th, his teammate in the Shield Cleansers machine, Takuma Sato, is feeling racy. Sato in 11th, knocking on the door of the top 10. Oh! Thursday, catch 2 new episodes back to back as the pieces of the mystery come together. 2 new manifests. That's Thursday, right here on NBC. There is a lot of on-track action. Look at this, almost 3 abreast down into turn 1, right on the runway.
Pato runs way wide trying the outside line. The red tire, soft wall tire are gone, and these guys are sprinkled through this pack here, and it is stacked up, Townsend. The racing is insane right now.
Shows you how dirty it is offline, because Pato O'Ward in that black and orange Aero McLaren car had just made a really nice move on VK, but he got wide and had to give it all up and then some.
VK in this section of the track has no drive off the corner. Now watch Ericsson puts the power down. He's going to sit in the draft, hold it wide open through this kink, and then shoot for the inside in the brake zone, but he backs out of it.
Ericsson is the highest placed car that has pitted. Actually, Ericsson has not pitted, I beg your pardon. He has not pitted in that Husky Chopless car. McLaughlin has there. He's running in 15th.
And Renus VK just has to hang on a little bit longer. He comes to pit road, VK in, Hunter Ray in to get the harder black tires. They've survived, and now they've got to make the different compound work, Dave.
Yep, for Hunter Ray, getting those tires changed, a big deal. The orange and yellow car goes in, and he had a severe understeer issue as well, so they'll make an adjustment for him. As for Renus VK, just the tire change should help him a lot. He's been very confident about the race car this weekend, and he's already gone.
VK did a phenomenal job, Paul, of defending. Like they were coming at him from everywhere, so...
Yeah, series champions attacking him non-stop. Now everything kind of spreads out a little bit more. Now that VK is out of the mix there, he was kind of holding up this whole train.
All these cars here have to put this clean air to good work. O'Ward, Palou, McLaughlin, they're all going to try to put in some quick laps here so they can leapfrog Pato O'Ward when these guys make their stop. It should come up real soon here.
Herta right now just cruising out front, still on those red tires. He's got clean air on the nose, and he's able to control his own pace. He's built up a 4-second lead over Harvey, but Newgarden right now is all over the back of Newgarden just passed Harvey.
Just past Harvey in turn 1. Now Pagenaud pressuring Harvey. Once again, a red-tired car with Jack Harvey under pressure from the cars with black tires.
Let's go for a little ride on board this Menards-sponsored Chevrolet, the Australian Gold car. Spectacular this weekend. Here we go.
Got to get through this chicane, get right to the tail of Harvey, and try to get a good exit. The red tires right now won't get the drive off the corner.
5 back.
Harvey doesn't pit. There you see Pagenaud, the 2 green lights on the steering wheel. Push to pass is on.
Yeah, he ran out of gear, Townsend. It hit the limiter there. So the gearing right now on the push to pass is a little bit too short to be able to pull alongside. He hit the limiter in top gear.
There's a big headwind coming down the front straightaway, so tough to guess what that head speed, that airspeed is going to be with a shifting and variable wind speed. Jack Harvey hangs on. I gotta think they're going to bring that number 60 car to pit lane real soon.
This was earlier. Takuma Sato on the left on the 30, the 21 VK, Pato O'Ward in the 5. Marcus Ericsson has a front row view of all of that. Ed Jones goes right on the inside of Scott McLaughlin.
Got 2 outside, 2 outside, 2 outside, 2 outside, 2 outside. You're good, you're good, you're good. Go, 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 go. Good job.
And then this was that pass for Joseph Newgarden on Jack Harvey for second. The Hitachi Chevrolet squeezes up the inside of the Meyer Shank Honda.
Harvey does a good job to hold him tight, but just now Pagenaud has a run into turn 1. Nope.
Doesn't have enough top speed in the car, and the gear ratio in 6th is a little bit short, and he can't complete the pass on the straightaway on the push to pass. But Townsend, you can't keep using that every lap and use it all up.
150 seconds of push to pass in 15-second maximum disbursements.
Pagano with 99 seconds left.
Got on the curb there and got a little bit sideways.
It's amazing that Bourdais has hung on to the car after the first lap, first corner damage, and is now pressuring Pagano a little bit, but Graham Rahal really on the charge. Let's see if Rahal makes a move. Pagano looks, Rahal looks, they both tuck back in.
Quick update on the Carlin Chevrolet of Max Chilton. He's got some gearbox issues at the moment. He is out of the race. Jimmy Johnson some 4 laps down, and James Hinchcliffe, after that collision with Takuma Sato, Hinch finds himself a lap off the lead.
Pagano's got another strong run coming off the corner. He's in the back wing right there. He's going to have to just dive in really late and do it all on the brakes, but he doesn't have the speed with the gear to get side by side, Townsend.
I'm a little surprised that the Meyer Shank team hasn't pulled Jack Harvey in. They're in the window to make it on 2 stops, lap 34. Harvey obviously struggling to hang on here, but I think they're going to just try to stack everybody up for as long as they can. Meanwhile, Colton Herta still hasn't pitted either. 2-second lead out front.
Remember the big story about the guy sitting second in this race at the moment, Joseph Newgarden, going for 3 in a row. That's never been done here at St. Pete. Rahal in that blue and white United Rentals Honda right there. He just keeps peeking out at Bourdais, trying to have a look.
Radio to pit this lap. I'm not sure who we're hearing. Is that Mike Shank?
I think it was Jack Harvey getting called by Mike Shank to come in.
Bourdais as well.
Clear run now for Simon Pagano. He's got to lay the hammer down and put down some fast laps.
Remember, rear bar Dixon hits pit lane as well.
Coming your way, Dave.
Here comes Seb, hits his marks perfectly. Crew goes to work. Pit stop should be between 6 and 7 seconds to get him on and off of pit road and back onto the streets of St. Petersburg. Big wing adjustment for Bourdais as he gets it fueled up.
Great, terrific first stint for Jack Harvey. He leads his pit stall as well. Got those red tires off, and they did an outstanding job kind of pacing everybody there. Yes, they were holding up the field a little bit, but now they're done with the reds for the day. Primary tires for the rest of the day.
Joseph Newgarden right now is clawing the lead away from Colton Herta. He's got it down to 1.7. He is flying right now. Herta still out there on the reds. Newgarden on blacks, closing the gap in a hurry.
That was Rinus VK, I believe. Remember that battle between VK and Award. Award out of the pits, but VK beats him on the over-under. Marty, here comes the leader.
Here comes the leader, Colton Herta. This was their goal, Townsend, to make it to lap 34 on pit road. You see him, followed by Joseph Newgarden. So 1 and 2 on pit road together, and we'll have to watch this blend. For Colton Herta, it's going to be sticker, primary tires, and also the same call for Joseph Newgarden. That means on the next stop, Newgarden must have those red tires, and let's watch this blend. It's always tough here at St. Pete.
That was sketchy. He was rolled way a little bit before the fueler was unplugged.
Had the wheels turned, ready for a quick exit. Good work, Andretti Autosport. It was Andretti versus Team Penske, and Herta was able to stay ahead of Joseph Newgarden.
Got a pit on this lap.
That's the voice.
We're going to blacks.
Voice of Kyle Moyer at Team Penske. The message to Simon Pagano. Come on in this time.
Definitely put the hammer down. He pulled a 2-second gap on Rossi. Here he comes.
Racing in right to that pit lane speed limit line. The 2019 Indianapolis 500 winner.
And Lee, he prefers a very stable Chevrolet race car under him. Kyle Moyer told him they've gotten him to that point this weekend, and you could see it the way he was handling this Australian Gold. Beautiful liveried car, and he's off a pit lane in a hurry.
Remember, he was battling, Pagano was battling with Bourdais as Rossi's in the box.
Just imagine the discipline for Pagano and Rossi sitting in that traffic the entire time, waiting patiently, saving all the fuel they could because they wanted to go further right here to lap 36. It should give them advantage. We'll watch for this blend to see how much of an advantage it gives them.
Pagano in front of Harvey.
Rossi had a slow stop. The inside rear tire had a bit of an issue, and here comes Graham Rahal. Hot tires, cold tires, and then big contact in the corner.
Rossi just turned in on Graham.
Flat tire.
Right front flat tire for Rossi.
Again, wheel to wheel, knocked the valve stem off the wheel, and Rossi now has a flat, and he's stalled.
And his right rear brake caliper is on fire. You can see the flames there.
So this is one of our stories from the top of the show. Drivers who
Emergency
needed
mode won't work.
to have a good race here in St. Pete. Alexander Rossi was one of those, and it's gone away from him.
Again, it won't go in reverse. You got to be so careful. You got to calm down and not rev the motor up when you put it in reverse. You don't want to be spinning the motor up. The car won't go into gear like that. And look at the brakes, so hot and on fire.
That'll go out as long as Rossi can get moving again. It needs airflow to put out the flames. There he goes. Paul, you can race side by side here. You can hip check, but you can't turn in on guys when they have the corner.
Especially when you know that they're on hot tires. And you got to be careful on a flat tire here, not trying to go too fast and end up in the wall. But I mean, he had a bit of a slow stop, and because of that, he knew he had to hustle on the outlap. Graham Rahal saw the opportunity, and rightly so, went down the inside. And Rossi turned in on him, and it was bang, wheel-to-wheel contact, and it knocked the valve stem off the rim.
Struggling, trying to get that car back home. There was one driver who had not pitted when that happened, and that was Alex Palou. You may have noticed the NTT data Honda dove for pit lane car number 10. Meanwhile, Colton Herta continuing on where he has been the whole time. This is what brought the most recent piece of action. Rahal and Rossi. It didn't end well. NBC's coverage of IndyCar is brought to you by Firestone tires for driving IndyCar legends. Honda, an official vehicle of the NTT IndyCar Series. United Rentals, official equipment rental services provider of Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan, and sponsor of Graham Rahal. And by Progressive. Save when you bundle motorcycle, RV, and boat insurance. Visit progressive.com. Back at St. Pete, where the action has been hot. And let's get an update with Marty Snyder.
And Lee, we're just 41 laps into a 100-lap race, and already Alexander Rossi is in 22nd position, 2 laps down after the incident that just happened moments ago. You see the flat right front that brought them to pit road. They also had to change the front wing. I think the bigger issue for this race team, Townsend and Paul, we have talked about it, the frustration that's building. They had a wrong strategy call actually at the beginning of the race last week at Barber, and then today an early incident. Yes, they'll be strong at Texas. We always expect them to be good at Indy, but the frustration, no doubt, building on this 2017.
Well, one of his big things was I have to make a better start this year than I did last year. Last year started 15th and 25th in the first 2 races. This year, 9th, and to Marty's point, he's right now in 22nd.
Yeah, 2 laps down, so pretty much impossible to make up that to get back on the lead lap. But here we have a replay. I was mistaken a little bit. We watch here, wing end plate into the tire of Rossi, and it immediately cuts the tire down. So
what'd you make of the contact here, Paul?
Well, I mean, Rahal's on hot tires and he's coming in, and Rossi's on cold tires. So Rossi was defending and squeezing Rahal, but I mean he's on hot tires. I know that the stop was a little bit longer and he lost a little bit of ground, but I don't know. I think that was a little bit more on Rossi.
Yeah, I'd say a lot on Rossi. I mean, as you pointed out, Rahal made the move right here. He's up alongside. And they could easily have run too wide through there, and that would have forced Rahal to the outside on the marbles in the next corner. They could have battled on, but just feel like just pushing it a little too hard. You know, you're already given 100%. You just can't try harder and hope for a better result.
Dave? Of course, drivers always think they, do the right thing in those situations. Graham radioed the team. He said, man, I thought I gave him racing room, so that was the result. The good news is that they didn't lose a valve stem, cut down a tire, or anything like that. And the only other issue for Graham today so far has been getting through turn 10. Townsend, what is that turn like, and how do you need to attack it?
Well, it's not quite 90 degrees, so it's more like a 100-degree corner, which means that the apex speed is a lot quicker than some of the pure 90-degree corners. So there's a lot of flow through the middle there, but you've got to be very careful on the brakes. We saw drivers in practice locking up and having to take the overshoot. You see Graham Rahal working the balance on his United Rentals car, working the anti-roll bar on the rear, making the adjustment. So luckily for Rahal, in all of that, critically, he's still on the lead lap. The car seems to be all right. The steering looks straight on the straightaway, but he's got to figure out how to get track position back.
Take a look at that difference between the race leader, Colton Herta, and the Gainbridge Honda to Joseph Newgarden, 6.5 seconds. Then Simon Pagenaud, Jack Harvey, Scott Dixon, the top 5. What about Takuma Sato? This man's teammate at Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing, the reigning Indy 500 champion. Sato's made up 9 positions from where he started.
And he's done so with some brilliant passes, clean passes. He had that contact with Hinch side to side, but he was all the way up alongside. So Sato moving forward.
Well, I mentioned earlier that Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing is celebrating its 30th anniversary this year. Today, Graham Rahal and Takuma Sato are paying tribute to Bobby Rahal's last ride, which was in 1998. Do you all remember that? Very familiar paint scheme and livery on the Miller Lite car for Bobby Rahal. What an illustrious career that Bobby had. He's one of the best storytellers you could ever meet. To spend time in Bobby's presence is truly magnificent. So he's celebrating this milestone. To have Team RLL celebrating a 30th anniversary. How about their Indy 500 champ right here, Takuma Sato, in the Shield Cleansers car, the Honda. Could he get up there and get a top 5? Taku has been on a roll.
It's been a pretty amazing 12 months, really, for Japanese athletes. When you think about what happened at the Masters, even last night in the Supercross race, the 250s with Joe Shimoda putting it at the top step of the podium. So Sato, part of that group of premier worldwide Japanese athletes getting it done.
Wow, he brings so much to the table from all of his support from his sponsors over in Japan. And listen, the guy's one of the oldest guys on track, and he's still performing, winning the biggest race of the year last year, the Indy 500, now running just outside the top 5. The guy's he's a machine.
Firestone biggest movers will reflect that. What a machine Sato is. Look at that. Up 9. Been a good run for Ericsson, Power, and McLaughlin as well. NBC Sports Championship season presented by American Express continues with the Kentucky Derby. That's Saturday, 2:30 Eastern, right here on NBC. And one person who's had a lot of fun at the Derby over the years is our very own Rutledge Wood, right?
Lee, I sure have. You know what? Being here is just as much fun. I made friends with the Abel family, not only in the construction business, but in racing too. Coming down here, seeing all these yachts, I almost had a front row seat to where Jimmy Johnson was in the tires earlier. But guys, I saw a couple fans online ask, why, different from saying NASCAR, did it take so long for Indy to throw that yellow when Jimmy was stuck in those tires?
Because his engine was still running. He was out of harm's way, one of the slowest corners of the track, off in the grass, and they were giving him a chance to find reverse. Kyle Novak and the IndyCar officials, they love to keep these things running green for as much as possible. Back on board with Johnson, he's 4 laps down, and it was a shame that he went off, Paul, because I was watching the pace, and while it wasn't mega, it was right in the group of cars he was running with at the tail end of the pack, and he was kind of holding it about 30 seconds back of the leaders. So I know it doesn't sound like a lot for a 7-time Cup champion, but it's progress weekend to weekend for Jimmy Johnson.
Well, the racing in the middle of the pack here is still hot and heavy. Look at Scott McLaughlin now. Rinus VeeKay has been
overtake on him
under constant attack from the green flag of this race. So Scott McLaughlin now attacking the back. He said use the overtake, try to get by him. He's on it right now.
McLaughlin stopped later than everyone ahead of him. He last pitted on lap 37 in this Dex Imaging Chevrolet, running inside the top 10. He set himself a goal last weekend of finishing inside the top 15. He finished 14th.
He's overtaking to get by him. You're not a concern.
A little bit better than that. This week, running in the top 10 right here. Remember, he did race this Firestone Grand Prix of St. Pete last year. Does he make a move on VeeKay? Is he close enough into turn 1? I don't think so.
Yeah, a little bit too far back. You got to be right on the gearbox when you come off that last corner. We saw with Pagenaud, his gearing was a little bit on the short side for VeeKay, so probably this team was all running the same gear ratios, I would think, Townsend.
Well, it's driver-engineer preference, so one thing I've learned, you know, on multi-car teams, you're always trying to outsmart the competition, including your teammates sometimes with gear selection. Let's hear a little radio.
Tell me what, Matt, Red 3 is fine. We just need to take care of those tires because it could be a long stint here. Main goal here is to keep position, keep moving forward, all good.
John Buslog there just kind of coaching his driver who's wondering, how am I doing on fuel burn? Are we okay on pace? Wants to make sure that they don't put themselves in jeopardy for the final stop and the final stint. And one thing I notice is McLaughlin's pretty disciplined on not using too much push to pass. VK only 40 seconds left. McLaughlin has 80.
McLaughlin told us a couple of days ago that he's just feeling more and more at home within the NTT IndyCar Series, and even with inside his very own Team Penske. He knows the culture within Team Penske from his supercar days in Australia, but being here it's different. Having 3 other teammates, being all seriously big names in the sport, all championship winning drivers are his teammates, as VK at back end of that thing stepped out a little bit. But Marty, with each and every race weekend that Scott McLaughlin feels more comfortable, I'd say for the others, look out.
He's certainly going to get better as the season goes on. Let's also give a call to Jack Harvey. Started second today, running in 4th right now. I had a chance to talk with Mike Shank, one of the co-owners of this race team, earlier today. And he said, listen, we have put together 70% of races. We need that last 30%. And we're such a new team that for us, a podium finish is kind of what we want. That's really a big goal for us. So right now, sitting in 4th, podium in sight today.
Done a really nice job all weekend, hanging with the big boys. Pagano just in front. We haven't talked a whole lot about Scott Dixon, but that blue and orange PNC car, the number 9, just kind of quietly, patiently stalking. And Paul, you just got to factor at half distance right now. Dixon in the top 5. If there's a yellow restart, he's so crafty at figuring out how to get to the front of these things.
Pagano's just not been able to keep the pace. Took him a while to get by that Marinas VK. That allowed Newgarden to build a nice gap to him, and Herta's got it now built up almost a 10-second lead. So Herta cruising here.
I'm going to show you the progressive lap leaders, and it's pretty simple. Colton Herta has led 50 laps thus far. Dominating this race in the Gainbridge Honda is the 21-year-old. The cool Californian guy racing wild.
Here at the Firestone Transporter, 50 team members will be mounting, setting, and balancing tires for this weekend's racing action. Nearly 1,400 Firestone Firehawks will be supplied. Now, what's unique about the Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg is that it's run on a street course, the same place where everyday Floridians drive their passenger vehicles. Now, one of the things that makes the competition so tight at St. Pete is the tire strategies the teams may use within the race. They can use the primary tire, which is harder, lasts a little longer, the alternate tire, which is a little bit softer but provides better lap time, or the wet tires. So what'll be interesting to see is, in effect, what tire each team chooses for what part of the race. And you can see it too if you check out the link below, go to the Firestone Tire Tracker and see what your team chose to put on when.
Good stuff, Dave. Thanks so much as we welcome you back to the Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg. Lee Diffie, Townsend Bell, Paul Tracy. You heard from Dave there. Rutledge Wood is here, and Marty Snyder. We ride aboard the Gainbridge Honda of Colton Herta, who boasts a 9.8-second lead.
Ran it in there on Dalton Kellett, lapping him a little bit wide, and now Townsend, you got to be careful when you do that, because look at all those marbles on the outside of the track. You get out a little bit too wide, and you could be a passenger into these concrete walls.
Yeah, with just one yellow so far, and that came many laps ago, Marty. The sweepers have not been out, so it was more single groove.
Boy, this race flying by, and yes, we're closing in on the final stops of the day. You know, one of the big things in the offseason for Colton Herta, his dad Brian now on his timing stand. And let's be honest, guys, dads and sons as strategists and drivers has not worked well in the past with pretty much everybody who's tried it. But I asked Colton in the offseason, why will this one work? He said he's, quote, chill like me. And that really has helped him. He's never been on his radio before, except one time. He spotted for him, Dave, in his career, and he's got his dad in his ear and doing a terrific job leading the race right now.
It's good to be chill, Marty. That's the same way for Frenchman Simon Pagano. whose strategist Kyle Moyer told me that one of the things that they had a little bit wrong, even though Newgarden won the race last fall and Will Power was on the pole, was the get-up-to-go speed on these race cars from Team Penske. They worked hard on that over the winter, simulating and working best they can during the test this spring to be better as the laps started on a stint. Now, right now, Pagenaud is on the primary tires from Firestone. We'll see if he goes to the Reds near the end, and if that get-up-and-go speed is much better for Pagenaud, running in third.
He hasn't been on the podium, Simon Pagenaud, since last July, so he'll be looking very much forward to that if he can stand where he is. Look at this, talking about some rookies. There goes Scott McLaughlin in the 3. Jimmy Johnson is staying out of the way, some 4 laps down and trying not to get himself in the middle of these mid-pack fights.
It's almost the worst thing you can do, Townsend, is drive around offline on a street course that's covered in marbles, because now it's going to take you about a half a lap or more to even get the car to get back up to speed.
Make sure your tires are clean.
And you got the call, listen, make sure your tires are clean before you start to run again.
It's what caught Jimmy Johnson out at Sebring in the sports car race. Spun, got wide, got to the next corner, and wrecked down at turn 17. Dip?
Well, let's talk more about the 48, because while there's still plenty of action going here, we do have one winner we can announce right now. The fans voted and Carvana listened. Jimmy Johnson will be racing in the blue steel livery at the upcoming GMR Grand Prix at Indianapolis. New designs for the Detroit Grand Prix are live now, so all you have to do is visit carvana.com/vote to drive that vote. Good stuff. Looking forward to that. So, working our way a little further down behind the race leader, Colton Herta. That lead has come down from 9.8 seconds to 8.9 over Joseph Newgarden. We'll continue to monitor that. Pagenaud and then Harvey. Harvey didn't have a top 5 all of last year. There he is in the background. Alexander Rossi coming through. And then there is Jack behind the bright gold, Australian gold 22 of Simon Pagenaud. Then Scott Dixon and Takuma Sato. So no top 5s last year for this AutoNation Sirius XM Honda. That would be a huge boost. Then Takuma Sato is still running in 6th. Behind him, Marcus Ericsson, Sebastian Bourdais, Rinus VeeKay and Scott McLaughlin in the top 10 with 40 laps to go.
Nice quiet day so far for Dixon. We haven't really seen much of him. Just qualified just outside the top 6. He's been running there the whole time, but this, Townsend, is what makes him a champion. When he doesn't have a great car, he gets a good finish out of it, and he always finishes the races.
Great racer, even better thinker, and locks up the left front a little bit right there. And speaking of thinking, I think this is the point with about 8 laps to go until we see the final round of pit stops. In fact, I think somebody will start ducking in maybe in 2 or 3 laps. Just wonder, Marty or Dave, are you guys hearing much chatter up and down pit road on teams and drivers dialoguing about what the final tire choice will be?
Townsend, I think that's going to be the game. Joseph Newgarden, who's sitting in 2nd, has to take on the red Firestone tires, the softer tires. They used up both of their primary sets. You must run at least 1 set of sticker red tires in a race. And so far, Joseph Newgarden has not done that, so he does not have a choice. Colton Herta, though, that's the decision. What do they go with for this final stop? And speaking of those final stops, back with those in a moment.
The push for the playoffs is on. Today, when we're done here from St. Peter, 3 Eastern, it's Bruins Penguins. The NHL is on NBC. So this race continues to be dominated by the youngster from California, Colton Herta, doing a phenomenal job. Our aerial coverage today provided by Geico as Will Power here in the 12, the black and red Verizon Chevrolet. He executes a fairly straightforward pass on Pato and Ward in the Arrow McLaren SP, and now Pato has his teammate Felix Rosenquist right with him as well.
Yeah, he's just really struggling this weekend on the tires, Townsend. He's the 5 radio, we're going to have something here, but he's just hanging on for dear life again like he was last week at Barber.
Yeah, this car doesn't turn. Copy that, we saw that. Let us know what you need for blacks on the front stretch, please. Well, I don't know, just leave it. There's nothing we're doing is helping.
You can hear the frustration in Pato O'Ward's voice. Also, Townsend, he has said they've had an overboost issue several times. So kind of walk us through what an overboost issue and what you can do behind the wheel to resolve that.
Yeah, there's a sensor that governs the boost pressure with the motor, and sometimes that boost can go over the limit, and effectively the governor kicks in and knocks your power down for a few seconds and can hurt your straightaway speed as Pato comes to pit lane, locks up just a little bit. And kind of like Barber last weekend, kind of started off pretty strong today, but some anxious moments in the cockpit because he just doesn't have the balance, Marty, that he wants.
Yeah, certainly not the weekend, back-to-back weekends that Pato O'Ward wanted. The obvious fastest car last week at Barber, they did not win, and now here they're not so good this weekend at St. Pete either. Only with not only with the handling, but also that overboost issue. You heard Taylor Kyle say, "Tell us what you want for the primary tires," and you see that major wing adjustment on both sides. Hope that helps them out a little bit. At this point, if they can finish top 10, that would be an okay day for Pato O'Ward.
Man, oh man, Townsend, they wound in about 4 turns. A front wing.
No.
He said I couldn't get it to turn, and then it snapped sideways on him on the straightaway. So he's going to have a bunch of COP on the front, which is center of pressure. The front wings on these cars put a lot of downforce down, so they made a major change in the front.
Watch this guy hustle the outlap.
Bar when you get a chance. Remember your rear bar.
Making a rear roll bar adjustment. O'Ward pushing super hard here. He knows this is his chance to claw back lost ground on this outlap. Cole, black tires.
Nearly slaps the wall. So Herta now is almost out to 11 seconds. He's just like clicking off the laps. First guy to pit now, Pato O'Ward. You hope that it doesn't go yellow.
You do if you're Pato O'Ward, though.
If you're Pato O'Ward. So
his
he's
final stop.
He's the first guy to pit, and he runs wide in turn 1. Check this out.
Turn 10.
Plenty of room there, but it was sideways coming off the corner. Watch the steering wheel here.
Beautiful catch, and Takuma Sato's in, Dave.
Gets the reds off, puts the primaries from Firestone on the race car. The winner of the Indianapolis 500 last year, trying to add another trophy here from St. Pete. He's never won it. He's finished in the top 5 a couple of times. You see more pit action on pit road as well. You see Sebastian Bourdais in the 14. He'll take the primaries as well. Can Seb pull it forward at the end here? Here comes Grosjean.
And Scott McLaughlin released as well.
And in the distance, Colton Herta. Huge lead, Marty. They just got to do these 4 tires without a bobble, and he should be out comfortably in the lead.
I mean, just a masterful job from the 21-year-old. An 11-second lead when he pulled into pit road. And to answer that question, they're going to go with sticker primary Firestone tires for Colton Herta. All they need is a clean start. Joseph Newgarden will also pit on the next stage. Newgarden almost runs into Colton Herta's crew. He will come in. They are forced to do the softer red tires for Joseph Newgarden. They have not run those today. We'll see if he can gain any time in this transaction.
Marty, Simon Pagenaud was not forced to run the reds, but his team chose to put the softer Firestone compound on. Pagenaud in the gold, number 22, will leave on Firestone reds.
Tell you what, it could be the most miraculous turnaround in successive weekends for Colton Herta if he can win this race. He'll go from 22nd in the points, leaving Barber as Pagenaud gets back up to speed. Herta would find himself 4th in the point standings. A drastic turnaround.
Such a big lead for Colton Herta. He was able to get in and get out before Newgarden even came to the box, so it looked a lot closer than it was, but if I was that front tire changer Townsend, I would have sent him too.
Just makes it out in time. Meanwhile, Scott Dixon staying out, taking advantage of the clean track. Now Dixon's in pit lane. Colton Herta back to the front.
Way off on driver's right turn 4, but he's way off. There's no flag. Track is green.
You guys have said a few times for Scott Dixon, it's been kind of a quiet day on Sunday, but I think they would take it considering how much they struggled Friday and Saturday. In fact, this morning, they didn't like the car in warm-up, so they kind of bailed on a plan. They were going with a brand new setup, kind of did a hybrid with what they used to do at street courses. His teammate Alex Palou trying to pull into his pit as Dixon pulls out. We'll see if Dixon can gain some time on Herta, who's been masterful today.
That was a
There
lot
goes
tighter.
Dixon.
Yeah, that was a lot tighter in out with Pelot, with his teammate, than it was for Newgarden and Herta. So
Dixon on cold black tires, but Sato, who's already made his last stop, is right there. Meanwhile, Dalton Kellett just inside the apex of turn 1, just outside the pit exit. He is safely out of the way. I would imagine that Indycar will just leave him there.
Need to duck away for a quick break. It's non-stop. You won't miss a thing. Sato chasing Dixon.
I just got loose in the wake. I thought I had the car and then touched the grass, and I think once I touched the grass, that pitched me sideways. So, feel really bad for anyone that got involved in that. Obviously, my mess created a bigger mess.
I came up to the top of the hill. I saw somebody drop the wheel, but all of a sudden, as I was coming out to pop on Pagano, Newgarden came across the track.
I was waiting for Newgarden to spin somewhere, and he's spinning the same place. I had Connor on my right, so I couldn't go right, and man, that sucks. It's such a disappointing start. I'm ready to get out of here and get going for St. Pete.
Well, it's worked for Colton Herta and Joseph Newgarden. It has not worked out to plan today for Jimmy Johnson. The Carvana Honda stranded on the side of the track. Second time we've seen Jimmy in a situation today.
And this was the yellow that we kind of need to pack this race up and get something going. But that's the fastest section of the track right there.
Yeah.
Townsend,
Paul,
I got to think he
this
just
tells
did
the
a
story.
he did a pit stop, probably came out on cold tires and lost it, I would think.
You can see the crossing skid marks that suggest that he just lost it.
Well, he didn't come out of the pit, so. Oh, hit the nose, so broken front wing, hit the rear of the car as well. I mean, that section of the track is so fast and it's so slick offline. If you just drop a wheel 1 inch too far into those marbles back there, you are going for a ride.
Yikes. Same place as Alexander Rossi lost it, but a little earlier last year. So under caution with 27 to go. Hold on, this is going to get good. As vaccine eligibility expands across America, it's time to roll up your sleeves and make a plan to get vaccinated. Our personalized state-by-state guide has everything you need to help you prepare. Now, the site is updated daily with an option to get custom alerts delivered to your inbox. Visit planyourvaccine.com or scan the QR code with your phone to be taken to the site. Lovely to have the fans here today. 20,000 maximum per day. Obviously, clearly, nowhere near the level that it used to be. But, Rutt, it's great to have IndyCar fans trackside. It makes a difference. We could hear them pre-race. We've heard them when they've made some good moves. Terrific.
It really is, Lee, and out here in the Midway, everything is alive, from the food to the vendors, but the Dali Museum is right there at Turn 10. It's one of the most exciting parts about being down here in the area. If you come visit, you got to come check it out. Some of the most beautiful art that you can find here in the country, definitely here in Tampa for sure. But so many fans out here today, they are loving this, even being outside the museum next to the Mahaffey Theater as well.
The nickname for the theatre is the Enigma. It's so spectacular. It's got more than 1,000 triangular glass panels, which makes it a very distinctive look from the outside. And it's a centerpiece right here in the middle of this St. Petersburg Firestone Grand Prix circuit. Right here as well on the grounds of the Albert Whitted Airport, where we utilize the runway, one of the runways for the front stretch. So the field has packed up. Colton Herta's 10+ second lead evaporated, and we're ready to go again. It's time to bring the action here in St. Pete. Ready, green, here we go.
Newgarden has to attack right now. He's got to use the extra grip that he's got with these reds. He's going to have a little look, but he wasn't close enough. Pagano right there on the back of Newgarden.
Oh,
big sideways
moment
there on cold tires.
I think the advantage is on the reds right now on this restart. Restarting on blacks here, it can historically be very difficult. So to your point, Paul, this is Newgarden's chance. You can see how close he's able to follow Herta.
It's just a little bit more extra grip on these tires for a couple laps. He's got to utilize it and make the move if he can.
Remember, Newgarden going for 3 in a row. Juan Pablo Montoya won a couple of years back-to-back. Then Sebastian Bourdais here on his home streets, his adopted home. And then it's been Newgarden 2019 and 2020. Joseph could get the hat trick here at St. Peter's. He lights it up off turn 10.
Push to pass will become active after they cross start finish. So maybe Joe New's going to wait for that, but he might not have to. He fires it into that last corner, but he won't get a run coming off.
About 172 miles an hour is the top speed down here entering turn 1. And Herta has been able to keep him at bay for now.
And there you see Newgarden has more push-to-pass seconds left than anybody else in the field.
Look at the down-low shot along the ground. Look at all those marbles. You can't even put an inch outside of the groove. So making that pass is also going to be extra difficult, because to do that, you got to get out of the line and drive through those marbles to make it happen, Townsend.
Newgarden stalking, patiently trying to find his opportunity. He'll have a decent straightaway here, but I think it's going to come on the front stretch. He's got to be careful not to overcook the entry into turn 14 like he did last lap and take advantage of that push to pass.
Yeah, the whole key for Herta is to get the exit and drive off the corner. So he's backing up the corner just a little bit to ensure that he can get on the power soon. Newgarden right there, but a good exit again.
They're starting to sneak away a little bit from
110 overtake behind.
22 laps to go here in the Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg.
That calm, chill California voice of Dad, Brian Herta, giving Colton the information he needs to know where Newgarden sits with the available boost left.
How could Dad not get as excited as we are up in here? He's watching his son hold a two-time champion off for the lead.
That's how we roll in SoCal.
Colton has never won in his young career on a street course. His 3 victories to date have been all natural road courses. Circuit of the Americas, WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca, Mid-Ohio. Some classic circuits. There's Dad Brian. He sat on the pole position here way back in 2005.
So Pagenaud right now really doesn't have anything for these two guys. He's just kind of sitting there watching. They've kind of pulled away, but Pagenaud's also pulled away from the rest of the pack. Harvey has kind of fell off the back of him, so it's shaping up right now to be a two-man race here. Maybe Pagenaud can make something happen.
21 to go. Good job.
These guys work each other hard, Dave, and wear these tires out.
What I was wondering is if that was what Pagenaud was thinking. I couldn't attack on the opening laps after the resumption of the race. I'll just save them a little, but he can't let him get too far away.
No, he's just got to keep the pressure on, and just when you apply pressure and make the guy look in his mirrors, you hope that he just misses an entry or locks a brake and runs a little bit wide. And right now, the track at this stage of the race, Townsend, it's treacherous if you miss the line.
It is, but you can see from that beautiful helicopter shot just how well Colton Herta's car is exiting the corners. And just remember, Colton opened up about a 10-second lead before the yellow, and now we've got the 18 Sealmaster car of Ed Jones sideways and blocking the track, and Joseph Newgarden and Simon Pagenaud are going to get another shot at Herta. The yellow's out.
Ed Jones in his return year to the NTT Indycar Series, driving for Dale Coyne Racing with Vasser Sullivan. What has happened to Ed? It's over in turn 4. Was there contact? We're about to find out as the AMR safety team approach the scene. See the bright yellow car there. Goes on the inside of Hinchcliffe and then gets tagged by Pato O'Ward as well. If you like what you see here, well, it's actually going to look a little bit different next week. That's at Texas Motor Speedway. The series rolls on for a double-header weekend. It starts Saturday at 7:30 Eastern on NBCSN. NBC Sports is your home of the Indy 500. Take a look at the right-hand side of the picture here. And this is Ed Jones, into the back of Pato O'Ward. So maybe that's where the frustration began. Ryan Hunter-Reay has a good look at it here. And then just 3 corners later.
Can only imagine that maybe is there a chance he damaged the brake line with the first contact, because sort of 2 pretty over-the-top moves there, Paul. 2 corners in a row.
Needs a little bit of coaching on the chrome horn technique. Didn't work very well. So I think he just ran it in a little bit too hard both times, and just making mistakes. It's hot, it's slippery. We're coming down to the end of the race. These guys are getting wore out.
Marty?
Let's talk to strategist / dad Brian Herta for Colton Herta here. Colton's done a terrific job today. What worries you most about a second restart here, Brian?
Joseph Newgarden on red tires. He's really good around here, and he's got the softer reds. We're going to have to hang on for a lap or two. Once we get the tires up, we'll be okay, so we'll see what happens here.
Who would you guess is more nervous, him or you right now?
Neither of us.
Neither of us. I love it. The cold guys, the Colton Herta's dad, Brian Herta, is saying neither of us are nervous right now. A lot of confidence in this camp.
Buying that, Paul?
I am buying it.
Okay, there's asking a pace car to get away. Field is yours.
He's done it once, managing to hang on the opening lap. You heard it from Brian Herta. Newgarden with the advantage right now, Div.
Still a long way to go, Div. We've got 18 laps. That's a lot of racing around here.
It is. Well, we know that Colton Herta is very coordinated, not only what he does in a car, when he sits behind his drum kit with his band, the Zibs. So there's problems here at Arrow McLaren SP. That's more than likely because of that contact with Pato O'Ward and Ed Jones and James Hinchcliffe. And O'Ward is furious in the car. They're so frustrated. We're ready to go. Racing again. Green flag is at the ready. This first turn is going to be the spot.
Green, green, green.
Good start by Newgarden and by Simon Pagenaud. Newgarden right there in the draft. Does he pop out? No, he decides not to.
A couple of cars side by side, two teammates, Will Power and Scott McLaughlin. Power squeezes through. McLaughlin's going to have the line. He lets him get it.
Oh, that was a lot of respect out of McLaughlin.
That's good, clean racing right there. That's what I like to see.
That's for a spot in the top 10. Here comes Sebastian Bourdais on Marcus Ericsson. There in the blue and orange car, the Views Chevrolet. That's Felix Rosenquist. Haven't seen a lot of Felix in this race today. He's now putting pressure on McLaughlin. And the Barber winner, Alex Palou, in that bright blue NTT Data. Honda is right there.
We haven't shown a lot of Harvey either. He's still top 4, but right there, Felix Rosenquist sideways, hanging onto the car, trying to get the marbles off.
I was looking at McLaughlin with the big slide coming out of turn 10 here. McLaughlin hanging on. So Colton Herta's passed the test once, so far twice.
Oh. Big sideways in the fast chicane right there.
Let's take another look at this.
Look at that. Herta already out to a significant lead. There is VK lighting it up. And now McLaughlin. Oh.
Very steady drive today by Simon Pagenaud, which is exactly what he always does. He'll put himself back into the championship.
So let's pay off some drivers here. Let's look at that bright red and white car, which is the Husky Chocolate Machine. For Chip Ganassi Racing, it's Marcus Ericsson, the former F1 driver. He had a top 10 result last week. He ran really low on fuel and dropped back a bit towards the end. Car number 8 is the one you're looking at as well. Power goes on the inside of Rinus VK. Turn 10, great move. Was very decisive. Came from a long way back and got by the ECR driver.
Kind of a surprise pop there. Deep on the brakes, made it work. Power on the reds, VK on the blacks. We saw earlier in the race that VK was really struggling with the balance of his 21 car, and Power taking full advantage of the situation.
Still a long way to go, though, for these red tires. We saw in the first stint, the guys that had the reds on, they fell off at about lap 12. So we've still got 15 laps to go on this thing. So it's not over for these guys on the blacks. It'll turn around here.
85 degrees, ambient temperature, track is at 126. There is the Rocket, the black and white Chevrolet for AJ Foyt Racing, Sebastian Bourdais all over Marcus Ericsson. This has been an awesome start to the new year for the veteran French driver. He finished 5th at Barber, and right now Bourdais runs in 8th. That'd be a terrific championship position, and in fact put Sebastian top 5 in the championship.
That car's either been hit or done the hitting 3 times today, Paul, and Diff covered this earlier. Bourdais, a lot of recent experience bringing the plane home with damage, and today's no exception.
Newgarden still applying the pressure to this young Californian. He's so experienced, knows how to win championships, and he's right there shadowing him, trying to force a mistake. about as close as I've seen him been able to stay, Townsend, with Herta. So he's really applying the pressure right now. He's only a couple tenths of a second behind, right on the back wing.
Colton looking so smooth, no big moments, haven't seen any oversteer out of that car where he slides the rear end. So I just wonder if Colton is just taking care of his tires, not at all worried about Newgarden getting too close until it comes to right here on the front straightaway. Let's see what happens if Newgarden changes his technique at all. He's been trying to drive it in on brakes, and then he slides a little wide mid-corner, a little tighter that time. But Colton Herta just gets the drive off on the most important part of this racetrack, the front straight.
87 remaining, 87.
One of the key talking points about this 2021 season for NTT IndyCar Series is a new venue, the Music City Grand Prix on the streets of Nashville, Tennessee. So for you folks watching in Nashville or in Tennessee, this is your guy, you know it. Joseph Newgarden, the two-time champ from Hendersonville, Tennessee, is the star of that show. He will be the face of that race. And I have to say, if you follow the event on social media, they are doing a phenomenal job marketing that event and rallying support. That new race in August of this year is going to be a terrific event, and Joseph would love to win that first one on the streets of his hometown. Boys have been telling you about how Joseph has back-to-back victories here at St. Petersburg. This was a couple of years ago where he got his first win. That meant a lot. And then last year in that championship scramble where it was a showdown between Joseph Newgarden and Scott Dixon, who was going to finish where, who was going to win the championship. Well, Dixon won the championship, but Newgarden won the race for the second consecutive year. Can he make it three?
So, Paul, what do you think here? You think Colton is just kind of gaming Newgarden and allowing him to draw close so that Colton doesn't have to use his tires during the tight section of the track? Or is Newgarden really legitimately getting quicker?
Well, I think Newgarden has gotten quicker. I think the track is rubbered up now, and maybe the Reds are going to last a little bit longer, and he wants to win. This Hitachi car has 2 wins here, and he wants a third, Marty.
And one thing about Joseph Newgarden that you'll notice, he has used a ton of push to pass over the last few laps. He's down to 82 seconds, while Colton Herta hasn't touched the button. He's still at 85. That's where he was at the restart. Newgarden now with 82 left. We'll see where it goes when they cross the finish line here, but Newgarden now down to 74, so he's on that button trying to get past Colton Herta.
Townsend, what's it like when you have
74 push to pass behind now?
Think about when you're a young guy, when you have a big name driver who is all over you, putting the pressure on. How do you remain calm?
Well, I think for Colton Herta, he just knows that he has a great race car. He qualified on pole convincingly. He's already a race winner. Nothing new for Colton Herta here. And sure, Newgarden's a 2-time champion, but you're looking at a future champion in Colton Herta, one of the most talented young Americans to come along in some time, maybe since Joseph Newgarden came into the sport. So just knowing Colton as long as I have, he is a stone-cold, chill guy, fiercely competitive, and I think he's got this one well handled right now. But 11 laps are a long time around this place, Paul.
10 to go.
And Paul, conversely, you were one of the most intimidating drivers to ever step into an IndyCar. What would you do if you were Joseph Newgarden to try and rattle this kid?
Well, you've just got to fill the mirrors. You got to get the guy looking in his rearview mirror and not where he's going. And now, as we see, Colton Herta is now starting to just pull away. So I think the attack from Joe New is just about over now as these red tires heat up and the blacks kind of come up to temp. So I think, for Colton, he's now just got to just play it cool, keep the tires under them, and just listen to his dad and just bring it home. But, anything can happen here. We get another yellow, and that all changes.
I think we also have to remember, Lee, the mindset for Newgarden coming in here. A huge fumble to start the season with the spin on the opening lap at Barber. Championship took a big, big hit. So I think Newgarden in the back of his mind is, if I get a chance, it's got to be real high percentage. He cannot start this season with 2 DNFs.
Firestone telemetry on the left-hand side of your screen there. Well, listening to Dad is something new this year in an IndyCar for Colton Herta. We've spoken about that several times, but if this young man can go on and see the checkered flag first, he will have, at the tender age of 21, as many IndyCar victories as his father, Brian. Brian won 4 times, and that's what's on the line today for Colton.
Let's take a look back to just 7 days ago. First lap, second corner exit here. Joe New with the big old tank slapper. And just chaos behind. 6-7 cars taken out in this mess. Ryan Hunter-Reay with the biggest hit of all. Aeroscreen did a remarkable job to keep Ryan safe in that situation. But, Paul, a lot of carnage.
A lot of carnage, a lot of damaged cars, and only a week to fix all of those cars. So we got a race next week on the big oval in Texas. So 3 in a row. So you have a bad day again like Rossi did today, and you're really in trouble for this championship.
8 laps to go around this 1.8 mile St. Petersburg circuit. Let's look a little further back behind these guys. They've left Simon Pagenaud several seconds behind, but Pagenaud's looking good for his first podium in a long time, since last July. So that'll give the Charlotte-based Frenchman a nice boost in the Australian gold livery car. Jack Harvey didn't have a top 5 all last season. So Harvey, who is 1 position further back, there's Jack in the AutoNation Sirius XM Honda for Meyershank Racing. This is going to be a huge boost for the English driver. And then behind him, Scott Dixon. Scott Dixon doing what Scott Dixon does. Just be there. Be there all the time. And Dixon will be 3rd in championship points if he stays where he is right now. So that's just fine. Nothing rattles the 40-year-old veteran, the 6-time champ.
And we'll be going to a racetrack next week in Texas where Dixon was utterly dominant last year, and it's a doubleheader. So we could easily come out of the great state with Dixon in the championship lead once again, but there'll be a bunch of other cars that'll have something to say about that.
Credit to Takuma Sato, who was up 9 positions from his starting spot. There he is there in that Shield Cleansers car. Will Power is the biggest mover of the race. Power is up 12 positions from where he started. 20th to 8th is the drive of the day for Will Power in that black and red car, right behind Marcus Ericsson. Ericsson's done a really stable and impressive job in the Husky Chocolates Honda. So good work from the Swedish driver. But Power knew that he had a lot of work to do, and he has done that work effectively. Power would keep, this is the important part, Paul, Power would keep his 2nd place in the championship if he stays where he is now in 8th. That's impressive.
Very impressive start to the year, even though it was qualifying went really poorly for him. He's done a really nice, steady job, and I like right now the mindset that Will Power's in, Townsend. He just seems to be doing everything right so far this year.
Just thinking the same thing. It's very much a Scott Dixon-like performance to start the season. 2nd place there at Barber. Did everything he could, but he took what was available, and it seems like he's doing the exact same thing here today. That's how Scott Dixon is a 6-time champ. Will Power going after his 2nd.
Our very own Marty Snyder broke the news yesterday that Power has signed a multi-year extension with Team Penske. He will finish his racing days with the captain. So big relief to start a new season. He started on the podium. More than likely he's not going to get there today, but that's fine. He'll keep 2nd in the championship, which is really good work. Behind Power, Rinus VK, the Dutch driver, the 20-year-old, has done a really good job in that Auto Gig Chevy. So he's been in the thick of it. He's been a little sideways at times. Some good passes, some good defense. It's been an all-round impressive performance from VK. And then Sebastian Bourdais here at his American home, and it's been his American home for a long time with Claire and the kids. Sebastian Bourdais is keeping the AJ Foyt Rocket Chevy in the top 10. This is a mean-looking car. And Sebastian has done a really nice job and has given the team an enormous boost. AJ Foyt Racing, their spirits are very high.
We'll still see that piece of electronics, Paul, hanging off the nose of Bourdais. It still is hung on by a cable this whole time, but you were just talking about Grosjean.
Yeah, he was getting beaten and banged all over the track, hit the wall 3 times on 1 lap. He radioed in, at the car's damaged, I'm going to come and bring it in and stop. And they said, no, keep going. And he's still soldiering around in 14th place, so hanging on to a damaged car.
Oh, Bourdais with a big slide.
Made some good passes today too. Last year on track, 145 total passes today. 158 on-track passes, and we're inside the final 5 laps here in St. Pete. been a theme that's kind of bubbling. Is there, and are we witnessing a changing of the guard in the NTT IndyCar Series? Well, you could argue yes. We saw this guy win a couple of years ago when he was just 18 years of age. However, last week we saw a 24-year-old Spaniard win in Alex Palou, and Marty, we're about to see a 21-year-old win here today in a few laps.
Well, Lee leading all but 3 laps and now 4 laps to go for Colton Herta. You mentioned that win at 18 years old, and you have to remind yourself, he is just 21 years old. That win at Circuit of the Americas, the first one ever. You think about the win at Laguna Seca. I would argue this is maybe the most impressive weekend performance by Colton Herta in his young career. Yes, he's done some amazing things, but to come to a place like St. Pete, put it on the pole, lead all but 3 laps and dominate, and 2 final restarts over a guy like Joseph Newgarden, who was pretty hungry. That's a pretty impressive performance, guys.
And Marty, you talked at the start of the race about what Colton Herta had told you over the offseason, the things that he needed to work on. And this just seems like a celebration of learning here. He is putting the tire saving, the fuel saving, all of those little things that aren't just about one fast lap. He's putting everything together to make this happen.
And Townsend, to be honest, this type of race, fuel saving, tire saving, all that, this is the kind of race that freaked him out last year. But he said, you know what, in the offseason I worked on it. Even this morning in warm-up, they worked on this, knowing that they had to save fuel, they had to save tires, and the 21-year-old has done a terrific job doing that.
Well, I'll tell you what, changing of the guard, there's certainly a changing of the guard of who has the pecking order within Team Andretti, because Rossi wanted to be the man, and this guy right here is the man today. So, you know, he's well outpaced his more experienced teammates this weekend.
Well, speaking of Andretti Autosport, guys, and youth, Dan Weldon, the late Dan Weldon, series champ, 2-time Indy 500 winner. His wife Susie and 2 sons, Sebastian and Oliver, live right here in St. Petersburg. It was announced yesterday, and they've been doing a lot of driving, by the way, in go-karts, etc. They're going to be part of the Andretti Driver Development, Young Driver Development Program. Isn't that great news?
Terrific for those 2 young boys. They've been karting for several years, and it's nice to see they'll be part of the Andretti family for many years to come.
Getting close now.
Hey, Paul, Colton's driving with white gloves, and one thing we haven't seen, at least I can't remember seeing today, is those white gloves have never snapped in the cockpit. There's been no big corrections. We've had no whoa moments with Colton Herta. Every corner, every exit has been absolutely butter smooth in terms of rolling on the power and making the most of the Firestones, but not taking any more than what he has on offer.
Wow, like father, like son. He certainly drives a lot like his dad, Brian. Silky smooth, doesn't make a lot of mistakes, so push to pass now. He's going to try to lay down some fast laps now, bringing it home on the last lap, ensure that he's going to maybe go for fast lap of the race.
1 lap to go, less than 1.8 miles on what has been a spectacular day for Colton Herta.
Goes through the tight section of the track here, Lee. Nothing but concrete around you, but he's got such a nice gap, and once again, smooth, deliberate. Oh, maybe that's a little bit for show. That's the most we've seen all day.
I think he's on push to pass again. He's only a 10th off the fastest lap of the race, so I think he's going to try to go for that too and really put a cap on the weekend.
What a day. What a day. He told us a week ago, just get me to St. Pete. I want to get out of here now after that opening lap crash at Barber. Well, he has come back. He has responded emphatically. Colton Herta will win his very first street course race. Colton Herta at the Firestone Grand Prix of St. Pete. Checkered flag.
P1, baby. Good job.
Mario Andretti there to congratulate Brian. So the father and son now have 4 career victories together.
He just asked permission to do donuts.
He did, Townsend. He said, am I allowed to do donuts or not? And Brian said, of course, have at it.
And he's mastered the donuts as well. Look at that. Perfect right front tire locked up. Perfect donuts right there as well.
All right, nice job. Nice job. Wave to the fans on the way home. Wave to your fans.
So what a dad, huh?
Yeah, really.
Telling him everything to do. Now you got to show him, give him some energy in the podium.
Tie your shoes, straighten your
tie.
tie.
Great race, bud. Control that start to finish. Lots of pressure at the end. You did great. Wave to your fans.
He won here in Indy Lights. He's now an IndyCar race winner on the streets of St. Petersburg.
Look at the marbles all over the windshield and the side pods from the donuts. Yeah, buddy.
The Gainbridge Honda at the hands of 21-year-old Colton Herta is the car of the day. Herta denies Newgarden 3 wins in succession. That was a comprehensive victory for Colton Herta, and you will hear from this young man when we come back. A reminder, NHL on NBC. When we are done here shortly, you'll see Bruins, Penguins, and then your local news. 6:30, NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt. That's what's coming up. But right here, right now, Colton Herta just unstrapping himself from the Gainbridge Honda after a phenomenal drive where he led all but 3 laps of the 100 on a hot, humid afternoon. Oh yeah, that was hard work. All right, let's take a look at the Children's Miracle Network moment of the race.
Well, it wasn't completely perfect. He had a 1-wall bang today, Townsend, but other than that, it was aces all weekend.
That was just a kiss. Topped off by the donuts at the end. Picture perfect day for the 26 Gainbridge Honda. Colton Herta, chill and in control.
Artie's there. Take it away.
Well, just such an impressive impressive performance from Colton Herta, who gets a cold drink of water on a very hot, humid day here at St. Pete. Going to climb out as a winner here in 2021. After a rough start to the season, they answer big time. Woo, man. How about that? Leading all but 3 laps. Is that maybe the most dominant performance of your entire racing career, Colton?
It's one of them. It's one of the most tired I've been in a race car too. Got my hands all beat up in this place. What a great job by everybody. Gainbridge, Honda. Sorry if I can barely talk. I'm so winded. Yeah, Jesus. I'm so happy that we did this. So happy to rebound from Barber and get the momentum going for the season that we need, which is a championship season.
How about the 2 restarts with Joseph Newgarden, one of the best right behind you, who had won the last 2 races here?
Yeah, I mean, he's so good around here, and props to him and his guys. They've done a great job this year too. But yeah, I was nervous because he was on those new red tires, and I thought they were going to be better, but they ended up being similar. So I was able to hold him off, and oh man, I can't even speak right now.
Everybody in the offseason asked you about your dad being on your timing stand. How about getting the first win together as a duo?
That was awesome, and I tied him for wins today too, which is even more special. So love that he's on my radio, and they all did an amazing job. Everybody at Gainbridge, so happy to be powered by Honda, Group 1001, Dan Towers. Oh, what a hell of a job.
Real quick, show us your hands, because I saw them, man. They are cut up. I mean, that's crazy. Is that the physical nature of this racetrack, or what?
Yeah, I mean, once you keep adding rubber, the wheel just gets more and more jerky and just wants to rip out of your hands. So I'm glad this race wasn't 10 laps longer like it used to be, and it was 100 laps. So really excited. Great job by everybody. Wow, what a start to the year.
There's some guy named Andretti right there who wants to give you a hug. Colton Herta in victory lane for Andretti Autosport.
Michael Andretti, quick there to congratulate his young star on a phenomenal drive. I think, I mean, you can understand the level of fatigue. You know, Colton kept saying, I'm pretty spent. I can't quite talk. That was a heavy afternoon of work. Let's hear from the guy who chased him the majority of the way. Dave's with Joseph Newgarden.
Yeah, Lee Newgarden was looking at that gearbox all the time there, and it got a little bit close there at the end, Joseph, but talk us through the idea that you knew you were going to have to put on the reds at the end there. What was your thinking going into that final stint?
Well, we lost a little too much ground in that, the second stint really to capitalize with the reds. And then we had the caution, which almost gifted us another chance. And I just didn't want to overextend myself today. I felt like I had close to an opportunity, but Colton was really good. I mean, he was doing a great job on the restarts. It was tough to get tire temp, so I pushed really hard right right there in those 2 initial restarts. Didn't have quite the runs I needed, so I didn't want to risk anything. But a good day, you know, really happy with Chevy's performance. Thankful for all their work, and to have Hitachi on and get a podium is really nice here to start our year off. So congrats to Colton. It's great rebound for both of us. You know, I felt bad about what happened last week, so really happy that he, you know, got back on it today and had a very deserved victory. So, you know, I wish we could have fought him a little bit more. I think we were just lacking a little bit.
No, a fantastic rebound from last week. And was that part of the idea between not overextending and what you were thinking?
Yeah, I mean, you know, if I have an opportunity, I'm going to go for the win. I was very close to having just enough of that opportunity. I think I was just a little shy of it. So I didn't want to force something that wasn't there today. You know, it's not the day to do that. So, yeah, happy with the podium. Obviously want to win, but, you know, we're on the board now.
Champion-like thinking from Joseph Newgarden today, Marty.
Dave, I think Brian Herta has switched from the strategist hat to the dad hat now. So how you doing, Dad, after that win today?
Just super proud of him. He did such a great job, and you know, we had a game plan. We executed really well. We didn't want to see those couple of late race yellows. With we know what a great competitor that Joseph Newgarden is, and you put him on red tires on restarts. We knew we were going to have our hands full, but Colton didn't put a foot wrong, and you know, we brought the Gamebridge car home in first place, so couldn't be happier.
I love what you told me on that second restart when I asked you who was more nervous. You said neither one of us. Was that a true statement?
Yeah, you know, we're just doing our thing. Like when you're in the moment and you're in the zone, I feel really comfortable. That's what I want to be doing, and I know he's the same. I can hear it in his voice. You know, that's maybe the advantage of being on the radio is we know each other so well that there's just a lot of unspoken communication. I could tell where he was at. I could tell just by his voice that he felt in control. He felt like he had what he needed, and so I was just trying to let him do his thing, and he did it.
I love how he immediately told us he's now tied you in wins, except for the fact that he's 21.
Yeah. I said, you know, when he first moved to Indycar, people used to ask me if I thought he was better than I was, but nobody asks anymore. That's okay.
That's okay. You're cool with that as a dad.
I'm good with that.
Yeah, exactly. Brian Herta, the strategist, the dad. He's a double winner today, Lee.
What a terrific family story. Really wonderful stuff. As Colton receives all of the justified adulation for a job well done. NBC Sports Championship season presented by American Express continues with the Kentucky Derby. That's Saturday, 2:30 Eastern, right here on NBC. So let's give you a snapshot of the final results. And we know about those podium getters. For Jack Harvey, that is a huge boost. Long time coming there. Who else caught your eye, Townsend?
Well, solid drives. I mean, just south of Harvey, look at Dixon, P5. Nothing special, but that'll put them up there in the championship conversation. As we head to Texas next weekend, Takuma Sato, some really nice passes, seemed in control, strong on pace all day.
For me, Grosjean hit the wall 3 times on one lap, said he wanted to come in and park, and the team told him keep going, but man, you can't not look at Pato O'Ward and Alexander Rossi had bad days today, and for Alexander Rossi, with his teammate winning, that stings even more.
So we are not quite done yet from St. Pete. We've got some more drivers to talk to. We'll also tell you about the championship points scenario and where this guy got himself to after a tough season opener last weekend. A massive swing this week.